Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Nimrod Pod. I am your embattled host, Lou Stump, reporting to you live from the Nimrod Central Command Center. Before we get started, make sure you're following at the Nimrod Pod on X, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and at Nimrod Pod on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Like and share this episode to start the chain reaction and leave a comment letting us know what you think of the show. As always, this episode is brought to you by 50percentoff.com. 50percentoff.com offers premium wellness supplements, daily essentials, and functional formulas at prices that actually make sense for everyday people. You will find a wide variety of trusted options for energy, focus, sleep, immunity, and peak daily performance. Right now, you can get 10% off your entire order with code TheNimrodPod. That's TheNimrodPod. Just click the link in our bio or visit 50percentoff.com/TheNimrodPod. Your support keeps Rex Jones and the Nimrods on air. Now, we have a very special episode lined up for you today. Joining me to recap the Florida primary is Kacee Allen, Independent America First commentator out of Northern Kentucky and host of the Kacee Allen Show. You can find him on X at Kacee R. Allen. Kacee, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Luke. Glad to be here. Glad to talk about the America First movement, everything that's going on with Florida, and like I said, I always like talking to younger people in my generation, really seeing what's going on because for the longest time we've just had the boomers just talk and get nothing done. So like I said, glad to be here and glad to talk about the future.
Awesome. It's a pleasure to have you here. Again, I think it's really important that we create a coalition, a united coalition of young people, especially Gen Z. And we're going to get into this, but what happened with the Fishback race, what happened in the Florida primary is kind of a microcosm for the future of not just the party, but our country. So glad to join forces with you for this recap. I want to kick this off, however, by giving you the floor to share your background with our audience. How did you get into independent media in the first place?
Yeah, so I'm actually only been in for about 3.5 years. About 2023 is when I started my own show and started really getting active on X and my other platforms. But it was really in spite of COVID, I would say, after 2020 with the lockdowns, the forced vaccine, which I didn't take any vaccines, by the way. But I felt like that was just really is what led to the distrust and complete where mainstream media has completely lost its validity, where people are looking for alternative options of media. And I felt like that was kind of an opportunity for really just anyone without because when we've seen the experts who are supposed experts completely, get contradicted on their claims just a year later by conspiracy theorists. So I thought that was a very good time to start talking about things like COVID and then Black Lives Matter, what we saw, the burning down of cities. I started talking about these issues, kind of very small, short form platforms. And I just felt like the urge to have a show and just kind of how we're doing now, just have a little podcast. And from there, I started interviewing people down the road. Obviously, I was a Republican back in the day. Still actually helped get Trump get elected in 24. A lot of local candidates that I still do support. I'm still ideologically Republicans that are America First. But so I've just been in political activism. I've done my show. I've done a lot of commentary and journalism and coverage over the past 3.5 years, and helping people get elected. So really just trying to use my platform, my resources to fight against the establishment that's actually betrayed me in local politics as well. But like I said, it's been a long 3.5 years. I've been through a lot. And I would have never expected I'd be in this position about 5 years ago if you asked me. So like I said, blessed to be here. And, I really want to use my platform and everything I can to, push Jesus Christ and push, this country to have a really nationalist representation that we've yet to really have.
Hey, you got me fired up. That's the dream. I mean, that's why we do this. I didn't even really think that you would give me the same answer, but it totally makes sense. The reason we started this podcast was it started with COVID. I mean, that was obviously the big wake-up moment. That's when, we all started watching Alex Jones every single day and actually realizing what's going on in this country. But for us, and I know the other guys aren't here to speak for themselves, but I know we're on the same page. Every single one of us had a direct family member get diagnosed with cancer or a chronic disease. And we were like, you know what, enough's enough. This was on the heel of, RFK Jr.'s presidential run. And we said, we need to, I don't care, let's put on masks because obviously we can't work it. We all work in corporate America. We can't do this. and actually show our real identities. So that's why we have these retarded masks on. But we need to do something. We need to step into the arena. We need to have the conversations. We need to find the truth. We need to spread the truth. I'm really encouraged to see so many young people like you at the tip of the spear trying to take our country back, because no one's coming to save us at the end of the day, Kacee. Like, we have to take it back ourselves. 1776 2.0. Working in this space comes with a lot of volatility, especially as you climb the ladder and get more exposure. Politics is a dirty profession, especially when you oppose the establishment. Like, you're not just a toeing the party line in Young Republicans, being a good guy. You are definitely giving the middle finger to the establishment. Why take on all this risk?
Well, because I've personally seen what the consequences are if we don't take this risk. And I was actually affected when I was in a local chapter. About a year into when I started my podcast and when I started getting involved in local politics in Northern Kentucky, I ended up getting elected, or really appointed. Wasn't actually elected during the election cycle, was appointed and replaced by someone, but I ended up replacing the youth chair of the Boone County Republican Party. So I served for from 24 to 25, and I was head of the local chapter there, or their party there, along with, it was mostly like adults and boomers for the most part. There were some younger people, but really starting to take on the responsibilities of like having like 60 people complaining about issues, and really doing my part and trying to make sure that we have like a balanced budget. So that was a really good experience for me. But from there, I actually got into they call the Northern Kentucky Young Republicans. They're like an actual local Young Republicans chapter. They were a Mitch McConnell, still kind of our Mitch McConnell gate-capped organization. We ended up overtaking them after the 2024 election, kind of completely like wiped out the organization and kind of like restructured it what we thought it did, or thought it was. One day we had one of our first meetings, and I think it had gone well. There was no issues. I thought the guys were pretty cool. Till this day, I don't have any issues with anyone. There's about like me and 8 other guys. I was the campaign and community manager. One day I got a text from someone and said, "Look, there's an effort to oust you from your position." And out of nowhere, I was like, "What did I do? Like, what? Are you kidding me?" Keep in mind, this is January of 2025. This is just 3 months after we got Trump elected. Like, our whole mission obligation that entire year, and really during the Biden era, was to make sure that we did not get a Kamala Harris or Joe Biden presidency. So that, to me, I was like, that's just so off. What, aren't we on the same side here? I thought we were like what? So I ended up finding out there was a private email chain made behind my back with every other member of the organization. Now, still to this day, I don't know who started or who's behind it. I have a lot of reason to believe there's probably an outside force or ulterior motive, but there was basically like the scrub of my Twitter for the past 3 years. And it wasn't really like, I've not said anything too crazily that would damage my reputation. I'm pretty I've got good optics, but I also speak the truth. They would use goofy things like reposting like Nick Fuentes, or having like reposting Jake Shields, or it was funny. Actually, I didn't know this guy named David Duke, which again, I'm not supporting any of his views, but I actually had reposted something he said. I didn't know who he was at the time. That might have been a big reason, but they did not like that I reposted Nick Fuentes' 2024 rally when he spoke at a Turning Point event, when he was on the balcony and he had the megaphone. They did not like that at all. And again, they didn't give me a chance to, rebuttal my views. What ended up happening was they said, all right, well, they basically had this private email chain, and they said, all right, we're going to give you 5 minutes to defend your position. And everyone's going to take a vote out of the 8 people. I was like, okay, fine. And I immediately was really defensive. I was like, are we in middle school? I thought I thought the Democrats were the ones that were anti-free speech, right? You're going to get mad at me over this. And, this one guy, and I think he said he was 25% Jewish. He said, well, the reason why we want you out here is because of your white supremacist and anti-Semitic views. I was like, because I reposted somebody else? I said, how is that? I said, that's ridiculous. And I said, if we're going to do that, we're no better than the left we just defeated. So basically, long story short, that's what ended up happening. I had realized that the Republican Party was not actually espousing the views that they had claimed to be about, when they campaigned in 24, about free speech, and really what I had actually believed. And I think I kind of fell for I think the big part of Trump 24 was trying to get the nationalists to kind of fall on board to that and kind of cater to them, when really they really weren't about making change, I think. So, basically that's what happened. I saw locally that, hey, we've got to push back since no one else will. I see so many locally corrupted politicians that they're incentivized to not speak up about Israel, to not speak up about white genocide, to not speak up about H-1B visas and the replacement of Americans. These are things that are gatekept, and it's almost like a secret handshake behind the scene between Republicans and Democrats. And frankly, if you bring this issue up, both parties will kick you out. And that's what happened to me. Not that I've ever been a Democrat, never will be, but yeah, that's why I've been a Republican from 2018 to since I could vote when I was 18. 25, I'll be 26 now. After Thomas Massey's election in May when he lost, that was my middle finger to the Republican Party. I said, all right, I'm out. So I'm a registered independent now. And I'm hoping to see, some restructuring and basically take over the Republican Party. And my way of doing that is I think we have to make sure that Trump and this administration, they sink, they go to they go down. And I think that we have to make sure that, if that means empowering some Democrats in the midterms at this point, then so be it. We got to make sure that this administration comes to a halt. I would actually be okay with impeaching Trump because there's a legal precedent to do so. Not even really putting facts over feelings here. I think that's probably the best for a 25th Amendment type scenario, which I've seen Alex Jones even bring up, would be something that would probably be something considerably in our best interest at this point. I think that's probably more of a logical reasoning. If you really look at what's going on and everything Trump's done. So that's kind of where I'm at now. It's been a wild ride, being a Trump guy for the last 7 years and then kind of getting betrayed over the past 2 years and really seeing that, the Republican Party is not who they say they are. And there really has to be a takeover, I think now, and it has to start somewhere because, like I said, it's money's winning these elections. The Trump endorsements winning these elections, and the Israel backing is obviously the cherry on top. So you got to find a way to beat that, and I'm all for it. But that's where I'm looking for, people like yourself, people like myself that are willing to stand up and start doing something because there's not enough activism, there's not enough. It's really organizing, I think, going on compared to what we're up against. Talking about $30 million in my district. The area you see behind me, most people probably have never seen in their life. It literally took the Israel lobby $30 million to buy this district to be a congressman here because Thomas Massey wouldn't sell out. So that's how much they're willing to go. That's how far they're willing to go. And I will say this, not to get too far in tangent here, but I do believe that in November, if had Thomas Massey won this midterm in this past May, I believe that the AIPAC and the Israel lobby would have put up another $100 million to $1 billion they had to make sure this guy would not be, have any more future terms in Congress. So yeah, that's what we're up against. It's a really kind of like black pilling reality, but I look at it as like kind of a white pill, right? Like you see like the adversity ahead of you, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel. So that's where I'm at now. It's like, you can't give up, but you got to be optimistic that there's got to be a way out of this, right?
There has to be. Jesus Christ. We spend so much time fighting battles and we get so worked up and so stressed out and so anxious, but we forget that the war's already been won. Like Jesus already won. He has claimed eternal victory on our behalf. Like it's a gift for us. It's there and we just have to accept it. And then you can fight this battle completely fearlessly. We need more God-fearing, Bible-believing, gospel-revering Christians leading this country. And I think that's what I learned from Trump. He had all these great promises. He was fighting this crazy wokeism, this anti-Christian wokeism. You talked about anti-free speech, like that. We're now being called white supremacist, Nazi anti-Semites by the Republicans. And I thought we just got done spending a decade destroying wokeism. I thought DEI was dead, but I still go through DEI training at my corporate job. So apparently it's not. They're still incentivizing these people to practice Satanism. It doesn't really make sense to me. It's interesting how the day one supporters of Trump, like the Tea Party people, the OGs that have been doing this for 30 years, over 3 decades, they're the ones that are now pushed out. They're the ones that are forced out. The J6ers, they're forced out. The people that put their lives on the line for Trump are pushed out. And then the Never Trumpers from 2016, the Ben Shapiros, the Mike Huckabees, the Ted Cruzes, the Marco Rubios, they are Trump's best friends and, biggest supporters. None of it makes sense. We'll talk a lot about what to do about this. I definitely agree. It's activism. It's getting people off their asses. Apathy's destroyed our country. It's not destroying our country. It's destroyed. And we're kind of just waiting to feel the impact. A lot of us are already in a lot of pain, but it's going to get a lot worse. Unfortunately, that's kind of what I'm waiting for, because when that day happens, when people are so distressed that they have nothing else to do but get off their asses, get out of their Wally chair, put down the Twinkie, quit jerking off, and actually go out there and take action. Go to that city council meeting, go to the school board meeting, start knocking doors, hit the phone banks. That's when we take back this country. And I think Fishback proved that. You mentioned your little stint in politics. You ran for office in Kentucky. What makes the Kentucky political landscape so unique? We've had so many patriots come out of there, the Thomas Massey types, Rand Paul. Beshear is kind of a really interesting moderate type guy that everyone knows about, as we were talking about on air. Tell us a little bit about the Kentucky political landscape.
Yeah, so it's very distinct from almost every other state in the country. I will say it's a double-edged sword, because I would say that Kentucky could be one of the most corrupt political states in the country. There's a lot of corruption. I would for sure say that. But at the same time, you have to look at the amount of liberty, representatives and congressmen and senators. I mean, Rand Paul, Thomas Massey. We have a lot of, if you look at our state reps, Savannah Maddox, TJ Roberts, we've got a lot of people that are basically like replicas of Thomas Massey and Rand Paul. So there's a lot of liberty-minded folks in Kentucky. That's something that we always have really stuck true to. And I'll say, but it is different, because you also have to say Mitch McConnell at the same time. He's kind of controlled a lot of the apparatus. Like I said, as I said before, the struggles I had in local politics, really getting, into Frankfurt and the Kentucky Republican Party was, they just didn't like people that were, would ask questions about Israel and really just the real issues. So that's where kind of Mitch McConnell and his people, which are very, very powerful. He's been in office for 30 years. He's a Senate Majority Leader. I think he actually is probably dead right now, to be honest. He's been MIA for 86 days. So, I mean, I'm not even, I say no taxation without representation. So, I mean, so this guy is basically that corrupt, and they're probably willing to cover this up, in my opinion. But, so it's very distinct, I'll say. But, and then we also have a Democrat governor. So that part is I'm not a fan of Andy Beshear. I think what he did during COVID and the lockdowns is criminal. I mean, he literally had a 14-day notice and put on anyone's windshield to attend any public gathering, went to church. He actually tweeted, you can actually see in 2020, I think I actually pulled this up not too long ago, but yeah, so Andy Beshear, I mean, this guy is an anti-American. I think this is basically espousing the globalist agenda. And he's obviously, he's a total libtard too. But again, the thing is, where people will say he's a moderate, he's a reasonable guy. I think I don't think that's really necessarily true. I just think he doesn't make headlines like most other people do, because he kind of stays quiet, and he tries to, he doesn't try to be the social media politician. And basically in today's world, if you're not that, you kind of are looked at as a moderate, because you're just not even, but you're just not existing. So, and someone like him, it's they're talking about him running for president in 28. I don't know, I'm not sure, but Kentucky politics, like I said, it is very different. I do think that we have a lot of influence when it comes to other states as well, because we're obviously, we border so many states, like Kentucky, Kentucky, we border Ohio, Indiana, Tennessee, Virginia. So we have a lot of I feel influence in the Southwest. Sort of area, and you see kind of that's why I helped out in Florida as well, because it really wasn't. It's 7 hours away at least, but it still, to me, kind of feels as if we're people with the same ideologies. A lot of Catholics, although there is a lot of Baptists, kind of there's the Baptist belt, whatever they say. But I think there is a lot of common ground when it comes to a lot of our southern states, especially where I'm from. So I do like that. We have my state, Kentucky, that we have people at least, Thomas Massey, Rand Paul, who's I think he's kind of switched up personally over time. I'm I actually won't even be endorsing him this year for the first time ever. So, and Massey's on his way out in January. So that does suck. It really does. And where we move forward with Kentucky politics, really not sure. I am endorsing Jeremy Todd. He's running for the Libertarian seat for U.S. House in District 4. So I'm endorsing him. He's actually coming on my show next week, or this Friday, so a couple of days from now. But he's basically, we're hoping that we can get a pretty good pushback to Ed Ryan, who's the Trump endorsed AIPAC guy who has been MIA. I don't know where he's been since he got elected, but or he at least he won the last primary. So yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, it is disappointing to see Massey lose that race, but again, $30 million. What can you do? There was so much propaganda, and It really was. It came down to the boomers because 78% of Gen Z voted for Thomas Massey. And it was like people that were 55 to 65 and above, whatever the demographic was. It was like, I think it was like 70% of them, like 70% of the boomers voted for Edgar Ryan. So it was like a direct split when it came to the generation. So, that's where I have faith. I think, down the road, you're going to see someone like Massey's career or someone like Massey get elected again, whether it's in, our state or our district or somewhere else in the country. But yeah, I mean, I've done a little bit of research on this. My prediction is that it's going to be difficult the rest of this decade, I think, to get like real American first people in any positions of power. I think you're going to see a few, but I think the real change you're going to see in probably is going to be the mid 2030s. But if I had to guess, I think 2032 to 2036, you're really going to start to see the boomers get phased out. You're going to start seeing millennials and Gen X. Even the Gen X would be getting old then, but I think you'll start seeing like, Gen Z and millennials start getting in, position of power in DC. And I'm really interested to see how that changes. I think you're going to see a lot more like, I mean, people might say I'm wrong here, but I think we're going to be more united actually than people would say the opposite. I think that Gen Z, once, left and right, once we're both in position of power, I think we'll actually be more accommodating to one another. We'll actually be able to, have more like open conversations compared to the previous generations that are just so divided. So that's what I'm hoping, especially like with the downfall of legacy media. I think we're kind of seeing this, because I talked to a lot of people on the left and independent, right wing. I like to talk to people on all different sides of the spectrum. And I think I always try to find common ground with everybody. So, but again, I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna side with the DSA. I actually have principles here. I'm an American nationalist, and I'm gonna vote for someone who's actually gonna put my state first, my country first, and I would at least hope. And I have trouble voting for someone who's not a Christian or would be of any other religion. So, I've never done that. So, that's where I'm at with all that. But yeah, I think Kentucky is very different. You have to come there yourself to see it. It's almost hard to say, but like I said earlier, I think it's interesting because you think about like, the average state, like you can't really name too many like, governors or congressmen or senators, but for some reason, Kentucky, there's just a lot of like national recognition with Thomas Massey, Rand Paul, Andy Bashir,
good and bad, because you got the Mitch McConnells of the world and you got the Thomas Massey of the world. It's really interesting.
Yeah, so it's a direct split. So yeah, it's basically the Tea Party, the Liberty, Kentucky Libertarian Republicans versus the Swamp, the McConnell establishment. So that's kind of what the dichotomy's been for the longest time, probably ever, at least since McConnell's been around, since I've been alive. So so I'm hoping, obviously he's on his way out as well. Unfortunately, Michael Ferris, who we were hoping would win the Senate race, end up losing, and Andy Barr, who is another AIPAC endorsed guy, is just going to be basically like is going to be the successor of McConnell, kind of similar to him. So I don't know, hoping down the road we're seeing a little bit more like pushback to that. But like I said, it's pretty crazy though, because it's basically like the Tea Party establishment split. Yeah. And I think it's going to be that way until we really get like more people like Massey back into office. Now we're facing a deficit of losing someone like him, which is, honestly, we can't even espouse how costly that is. That's horrible because, him with the Epstein Files Transparency Act, with being like the only opposition to like, funding the wars in the Middle East and Israel. It's like, that's really detrimental, I think, especially now, because like even with the Epstein stuff, it's like Massey's courage to do that also took at least 4 other Republicans to sign on, and they wouldn't have done that without him doing that first. So that's where you need someone like Massey to just like literally just to get hit with the bullets and just take the blame and actually be willing to railroad your career, even if that's what it takes. But unfortunately, you don't see anyone in DC that has even remotely close to the testicular fortitude that Massey does. So that's basically kind of what we're seeing now. And I think it's getting more obvious though with Gen Z that we're kind of seeing the contradiction with these like fake politicians. So that's what gives me a bit of hope. I do think that we're headed in the right direction, but again, it is going to take a whole decade of fixing this and having a foundation and starting something, I think.
Absolutely. I've been saying a lot recently, I don't think Patriot media really took the primaries seriously, because obviously like the only way we can build a coalition and take back our country is if we, have a fair primary process, which we don't, and then we get our guy in and we run them against the establishment. It's not what happened. People didn't show up. We look at Texas, Alex Jones and Steve Bannon have Doc Pete Chambers on like a week or two before the election. Nobody knows who he is, and he just gets absolutely pummeled. I think Thomas Massey was the first big one. Like there were two big races. It was Thomas Massey and James Fishback. Absolute heartbreaker with Thomas Massey. Despite all these people coming together to support him across the country, it was too little too late. And as we transition over from Kentucky, we look at the Fishback race. I know you spent some time campaigning across the state of Florida. What was the sentiment on the ground beforehand? Were you shocked by the results on election day?
Yeah, so with Fishback in particular, or like all the elections, or
just in general, what, like when you're talking to Florida voters, what was the sentiment on the ground? Does Byron Donalds really have 600,000 devout supporters that showed up for him? Did it seem like that? Because I talked to certain people. I talked to Aaron Baker, for example, a few weeks ago, and I said, does Fishback actually have a chance, or is this just social media is not reality? And he told me, this is the age-old question. This is the magic question. We're all trying to answer it. But he said, I can tell you one thing for sure. I go to all these local GOP chapter meetings, all the Boomers United meetings, and the one thing I hear is anyone but Byron. And then he just runs away with the election. Did you get the same vibe when you're on the ground in Florida?
Well, I would say, just like most other states, the average person isn't fully in tune. They don't even know their local representatives. So I kind of got that vibe too. But I will say, like, everyone was very easy to talk to, very nice people down in Florida, very very hospitable. So yeah, can't complain about that at all. But yeah, I would say, like, I think the younger people for sure are more leaning to voting for Fishback and Bilzerian. Like they want the anti-establishment, like against the grain, especially not funded by AIPAC candidates. So that's the sentiments I got for sure. But again, like I know for a fact in a state like Florida, it's like, and especially like I think I learned a lot from the race with Massey. It's like it really just shows you that money can buy elections, like that, and it really does. That is one of the biggest and most deciding outcomes, I think, when it comes to it. And that really, I think that's kind of what I did expect that going. I think it was going to be an uphill battle for every single one of them. I think between Bilzerian, Baker, Doug Chico, a lot of the other guys that ran as well that I'm not really too familiar with, but I think that was the issue. It's just there's so much money in a state like Florida. You got to realize, like I think they're one of the most. They have they're the largest like Jewish population, and I think in the entire country,
Yeah.
second largest. Very influential in Southern Florida, especially. So it's very difficult. I can only imagine. I can't even imagine how hard it is down there to win just even like a city council or a state rep race. And I'm sure there's so much money and there's a lot more corruption as well that I'm not even aware of. But yeah, I mean, I thought like the sentiment with I did like though. I think like Gen X and some of the boomers, like I think they were open to having their vote swayed. Like they were very open-minded, especially door knocking, especially even confronting them in public. I think they were very open-minded, and they would, if had they heard the right message, I think that they would have probably voted for some of these guys. Again, the issue is when you have someone like a Byron Donalds or a Jimmy Patronis or a Randy Fine, you've got millions of dollars in donations. You can use those for mailers. It's $1 a mailer, so you don't have to go out and door knock. You're saving so much money covering all this ground, where your opponents, who, if they can't raise, 100 maybe 100 to say $300,000, like, yeah, that can do some damage, get you some ads, get you some volunteers, maybe get a lot of some houses done, but you're not going to be able to compete realistically with someone with, a war chest of $3 to $5 to $10 million. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And especially if the only chance is, and that's why I think you saw Bilzerian get like 17-18%, not with really much of a campaign, to be quite frank, very, very brief and kind of just kind of winged it. I think he could have done much better, but I'm glad he ran. Just honestly, any opposition is good, I believe. But, I really think that, in some of these races, there could have been a lot better results had we had more focus, more money. And again, it's just like, I think there is a sentiment, especially in a state like Florida, especially the boomers. Like, I did see a lot more. Again, I'll say this. I've never seen, or at least it's very rare to see someone with an Israel flag in their front yard in Kentucky. I think I saw at least 10 to 20 different yards with Israel flags or Israel flags on their truck, which I found very uncommon and very unusual, because I don't see that much where I'm from. So I guess that's kind of kind of getting the sentiment that they're Zionist or very pro-Israel down there.
What part of Florida were you in when you saw these flags?
So I was primarily in Northwest Florida. So this is the Panhandle. Yes, basically Escambia County, Pensacola, around there.
Yeah, I spent some time in Tampa Bay area, but in my childhood, I lived in Southeast Florida for a while, and I was a minority as a white Christian. I mean, it was majority Jewish. We had a lot of Cubans, and then there was a small little group of Christians that all knew each other and went to the same school. It's really bizarre. So I had my worries going into this, but I really thought that Jewish influence was concentrated to Southeast Florida. There's a lot of Midwest transplants all across the western part of Florida, from the Panhandle down to like Sarasota, Fort Myers. But obviously, that's changed a lot with COVID. I mean, there's a lot of people coming from New York. There's a lot of people coming from Massachusetts. There's a lot of people coming from all over the Northeast and New England, and we're starting to see the results. A lot of people complain about people coming into your state and making it like New York or making it like California. I live in Texas. Everyone's worried about the California transplants. Well, these are the like hardcore Republicans that couldn't stand living there anymore that come in, and ideally they're supposed to make it more Republican. But then when your governor lets in a bunch of H-1Bs from India and a bunch of third world Muslims that build mosques at a higher rate than anywhere else in the country, you get displacement, and that's how you end up losing these elections. I want to look at the House races in Florida, go one by one, because I think it's so interesting what's going on in Florida, because you have two different sides of the Florida establishment. You have the DeSantis wing of the establishment, and then you have the Trump wing of the establishment. And there's a lot of crossover, but they act like they hate each other. And then in the middle, you have these great independent, grassroots, pro-liberty, America First candidates sprinkled in.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at 1st District. Tell us about Doug Chico. You decided to spend some time with him in Florida. What was he like, and what are your thoughts on how his race went?
Yeah, I actually did expect him to get a little more of the vote. Again, I think his race in particular is really embodies the the influence of donations and lobbying in politics. I mean, Jimmy Patronis, who won that election, you can see was 71% of the vote. He ended up getting, I think, $3.6 million in donations. Doug only had $72,000, maybe like three grand cash on hand. Patronis had $700K cash on hand. So Patronis just bought all these mailers, didn't go to any public events, didn't campaign whatsoever, and just relied on the Trump endorsement and the AIPAC money. And Doug Chico, as you see, he actually got 3rd place there. John Frankman, he was the soldier that was known for, quitting, or getting fired from not refusing the vaccine during COVID, big Matt Gaetz guy. And so basically Doug got 8% there, what it looks like, 9%.
9.4.
9.4, yeah. So again, I will say, like, I was very impressed with what he had to work with. This is, again, outsider to politics. He was a Navy guy, 36 years old, father, clearly he was definitely like an outsider to politics, absolutely. But his work ethic was phenomenal. I mean, this guy worked for every vote that he got. He would go to, we would be out like a Publix or a Kroger's. We'd be out like in a public location, and he would just approach people and have a good one-liner, like someone who we'd never seen before. And he'd say, "Hey, did I go to church with you?" Like, it was very good, very. I feel like he was very motivating to see someone like that who would go to any length. Compared to his candidates, think about this: this guy Jimmy Patronis isn't even meeting his constituents face to face, and you got Doug out here that's working for every single vote that he had. So I did respect that. I think that is the work ethic we need. I really think that is the winning mentality. But again, that only does so much when you're going up against the Trump endorsement, which is, I think, it's starting to lose its validity. It's starting to lose its value, but I think it is still extremely important. Obviously the Israeli endorsements, the Israeli money, that's secondly big, but also, if you're an incumbent, you have a 90 to 95% chance of keeping your seat. So, it is disappointing to see what happened. I think Doug is someone I would like to see him. I think he'd be an excellent state representative. I think Congress, it's very difficult to win. I think Doug, as well as he was actually the only person that in that election that's actually from his district. Patronis and Franklin are outsiders, so he's like the natives there. So, and I'd wish he'd won. It's disappointing. I did spend some time, went down there for about a weekend and did some door knocking, and he's also been on my show before. So, it was a well fought campaign for what he had. Like I said, limited resources, but at least I'm glad he did that, because we need more people that at least have the mentality, even though we don't have the resources. But again, that's where reality does set in. You've got to have some financial backing. You got to have some capital if you're going to compete with some of these, these Israel-backed and Trump-endorsed candidates.
I couldn't agree more. Crowded primaries really played a big role in Florida across the board, especially in any district where we actually had a great grassroots America First candidate. If we look at District 2, this one's really interesting.
Yeah.
Evan Power places third. This is the current chairman of the Florida GOP. He places third. What do you think this tells us about his approval rating as party chairman, Kacee?
So I'm not too familiar with District 2. So are any of these candidates, like, can you tell me if any of them are Trump endorsed, or who has AIPAC money, who doesn't?
None of them. Essentially, Evan Power is the Florida GOP establishment. He is the guy that kicked Fishback out of the Sunshine State letdown. He's the one that prevented him from coming on the debate stage. He's the one that makes up the fake debate requirements. He's the one that kind of holds the purse for the state party and gets to handpick all the candidates all across the state. And obviously, it wasn't just, us grassroots populists that are really into politics that were pissed off at how the primaries were handled this year. It was everyone. We had the governor coming out and opposing him. We had Patrick Bet-David coming out and opposing Evan Power publicly on X for his, I would say, election interference straight up. Again, I wasn't following this race really closely. I figured he would be a shoo-in. But believe it or not, he gets third place. This is probably the only bright spot of the entire day for me personally.
So who's that's not Aaron Rodgers, the football player, right?
That's him. Yeah, he slings the rock 130 yards.
You're kidding me. That's actually Aaron. No. I was like, okay, I just know I had to have heard.
That'd be sick.
That yeah,
no. I literally let's take a look. I know nothing about these people. I just figured it was a shoo-in for Evan Power. Austin Rogers, Keith Gross, Evan Power. I know none of them are Trump endorsed. So This is pretty interesting. Again, very crowded primary. So that could have definitely played a role.
Wait, so Trump didn't endorse anyone in this race at all?
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, he was very selective this year in Florida. Another one that really interested me, I mean, obviously, the 6th district. Let's get this one out of the way. What we learned from this is that Randy Fine is the most unpopular congressman in the entire country, probably. Even the people in his district don't like him. What was the issue? Well, let's see here. We had too many people in the race.
Yeah.
Dan Bilzerian, Aaron Baker. I'd like to really put a spotlight on Charles Gambro. His only endorsement was from Jay Collins, and he never had a chance to begin with. 9.7 is a large portion of the vote. I think if he would have not been in the race, it could have made one of these other candidates a little more interesting. And I don't really care who it is. What was your assessment? I know you were a big supporter of Dan's campaign. What are your thoughts on how it shook out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too surprised, but I mean, I think Randy Fine is, like you said, he's obviously one of the most unpopular congressmen, and this is his first re-election he's won. I think he won the special election in 25. So yeah, not looking good for him. That's for sure. But again, like, the issue is you see, 18% Bilzerian, 13% Baker. I've never even heard of Gambaro, but 10%. So yeah, I think that really, if they had there was like a 2-man race, this would have probably been, I think Randy Fine easily would have been beat. And again, like, I'd like what Dan was doing. I'm kind of back and forth. I never actually talked to Aaron Baker. I have nothing against him. He seems like he's America First, I guess. I can't really vouch for much. I've just never talked to him. Dan, I've talked to a little bit, so I'm familiar with, obviously. But I think it was really important for someone like him because, having like 30 million followers, like being like I think he was like one of the first, like, really like internet celebrities, or like real like Hollywood personalities, like, that are really like America First and like will put their money where their mouth is. I think he was like one of the first people to really do that. So again, like, I think he probably should have. I think he actually lives in like Las Vegas. I'm not really sure how long he's even lived in the district, to be honest.
He's never lived in the district ever, and he still does not today.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Again, I will have a little pushback on the campaign. I would have personally done things different, and I think he would have probably should have won that, to be honest. And again, if it had maybe an alternative situation where maybe Dan and Aaron had of maybe like a behind the doors agreement to where one of them would run and support the other. I think that would have probably also helped too.
Let me give you a little peek behind the curtain. Dan was communicating actively with Aaron since 2025. And the plan was Dan was hyping Aaron up. He said, I'm going to get a bunch of funding together and I'm going to throw it behind you once we get to 2026. Aaron's waiting. And then 3 months ago, all of a sudden, Dan's running for Congress. He injects himself into the race. Aaron Baker has been in the race since the 2025 special election. He goes to 3 events a day. Everyone in the district knows him. They might not have voted for him, but they know who he is. And he has a real America First platform. He was one of 2 guys in the state of Florida that came out as America First before anyone else. It's Aaron Baker and Mike Wilnot. These were also the only 2 Fishback endorsed candidates in the entire country. So there was a ton of potential there. When we look at Randy Fine and Dan Bilzerian, it is AIPAC versus CARE. And for me personally, let's make this a little exciting. I don't think that's America First at all. And after Trump especially, I don't think I can ever support an unbeliever ever again, someone who is morally compromised, someone who does not have that moral compass that comes with being a Christian. I think Christian faith, honestly, as we look forward to 2028, should be a requirement for any candidate in any race in our new movement. And I think that's okay. I mean, you look at Dubai, the most progressive Arab country. You don't see any new churches being built. You can be a Christian, but you don't see them inviting a bunch of Christians into their country. You don't see any Christians or Jews in power. No, it's just Muslims in power. Most of them are related, and they're probably also having relations with each other. That's how they're doing it over there, but that works. That model works. And I think it's okay for us to have that standard. Do you personally think, as we look to figure out what our new platform is, what our requirements are, what our non-negotiables are, is being a Christian one of those non-negotiables? And why or why not?
Yeah, for the most part, absolutely. I would consider myself to be a Christian nationalist. I think that, again, like, I will say, like, maybe I'm being hypocritical here, but yeah, I did endorse Dan. I don't believe that he's a Christian. I'm not sure if he's I really don't know his religious belief. I am familiar with the CARE. Like, I do know his top donations were mostly from like Muslim supporters, which again, I'm not a fan of. That's not my first problem, I would say right now. Again, maybe down the road, I'll have a problem with that once this country is a little bit more stabilized. But, the way I see right now, it's like, AIPAC is, I think we have to have fire with fire, right? You got to, not a fan of foreign influence, but I can't be directly too opposed to people that also have a vested interest in going against Israel. Same time, I'm not siding with the open borders, radical socialist Hassan Pikers. I think there has to be a cutoff there. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. It's kind of a nuanced situation, but yeah, I'm an American nationalist, Christian nationalist. I do believe that all of our leaders from, the executive branch, all the way up to down should be Christian. I think the reason why we're kind of maybe looking for alternatives, at least now, or maybe even compromising some issues, kind of like people that could be taking money from Muslims, is because like we're kind of playing with the cards we have, and I think you got to start somewhere with the foundation. And like I said, this country has been so corrupted by Israeli influence and foreign money. It's to a point where like you can't combat it by just being genuine anymore. Like not saying that like you have to be like a sellout. That's obviously not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying I'm not going to be too heavily opposed right now to someone who might be working with another country to help undermine the Israeli influence. At the same time, I wouldn't do that, but I can understand. But again, down the road, let's just say we get this country back. I want to cut all foreign influence out. I don't think that should be accepted. Although I'll for granted, I'll just say we're in some very, I would say, desperate times, very, very different times. I think we've lost a lot of our liberties and our constitutional rights. So I just think it's kind of like no man's land. It's just like anything's on the table. So again, not for corruption. I want Christian leaders. Again, that's where my support for Bilzerian comes from. I understand he's got a checkered past. People disagree with him on stuff, but again, I think we really did need to see like that Hollywood-esque, like multimillionaire celebrity kind of like a Kanye West or like a Ye, or like even like a Trump, kind of like I see like Bilzerian kind of like fitting. Not saying he's a Donald Trump, but I'm saying like a guy that will put their money where their mouth is, and kind of has that like persona and personality. So I just want to see this. And again, worst case, I guess here it's just a test that this is a bad test, I guess, or it's a science experiment gone wrong. But again, like I do think that it probably would have been better. Me personally, just being biased, I just think clearly at least looking at the results, it would have been better for maybe Aaron Baker to concede to Bilzerian, but I understand why he wouldn't, because he's been, that's his district and he's been working, like I said, a year before. I totally get both sides of the argument, but again, I think what's most important here is that it really does show that Randy Fine is extremely easy to beat. And next time around, whether it's Baker, whether it's someone else, I mean, I really don't think, Randy Fine's going to be too hard to beat next time.
I think that's all very fair. And forgive me, I'm going to go on a little tangent here because I haven't had a chance to speak to our audience since I got into a spat with Dan Bilzerian last week. Let's look at campaign financing. You brought this up. So Dan told Aaron 3 months ago when he decided to enter the race, hey, I'm entering the race because you didn't raise enough money. Well, when push came to shove, Dan had $33,000 from individual supporters. I believe Aaron had 70 to 90,000. I'm sorry, it was 70, 90,000. The rest came from as a pack, and they both ended up spending $100 to $200,000. So money ended up not being a thing. Dan made it look like he fundraised a lot because he injected $1 million of his own money. 2 days before the election, he had $1 million of unspent funding. He didn't spend that $1 million and went right back into his pocket. So it was all kind of artificial. My thing with Dan is he was never really serious. He lives 2,000 miles away from the district. Aaron lives in the district. He was kind of running a Joe Biden basement campaign. All he would do is say, hey, fuck the Jews once a day. And that was kind of his work for the day. And then he went back to, pimping chicks out, whatever he does. And he held his first campaign event 4 days before the election. He's only stepped foot in district 2 times. Aaron obviously made hundreds of campaign stops since the 2025 special election. All this to say, like if Dan came in and injected himself with his 30 million Instagram followers and his 3 million followers on X, and he took it seriously, he could have won 100%, but he didn't. And he squandered an opportunity for all of us, I think. It's really tough. And at the end of the day, there's this wing of America First that is only focused on the Jews, only focused on Israel. Obviously, that is the big problem, right? But you never hear these people talking about immigration. You never hear these people talking about our, international economic policy. You never hear these people talking about American culture. You never hear these people talking about any of the promises that Trump made. They don't talk about balancing the budget. I've never seen Dan go on a podcast that wasn't one of his buddies that just wants to talk about the Jews the whole time. This guy slides into my DMs last Thursday, 4 days before the election, whatever it is, and he spent 40 hours straight trying to get my individual vote. And at first I tried taking him seriously, but it quickly devolved into him being a complete and total asshole. And I put him on blast on X. It must have been Saturday, and I had at least 10 Aaron Baker supporters DM me personally saying he was doing the same thing to them. So this just goes to show how unserious he was about this election. Randy Fine's the most unpopular congressman, the most unpopular incumbent for sure in the entire country, somebody that we could come together around. And he wasn't the guy for the job. And it's a damn shame because we could have made Randy Fine a one-term congressman. And I hope next time we come at it with a much better strategy, perhaps a more unified strategy.
Yeah.
Enough about FL6. It's a fun one. I saw you posting about the FL7 race. I believe, I don't want to speak for you, but I believe you see Corey Mills losing as one of the few bright spots. Can you tell me a little bit about your perspective there?
Yeah, so I want to completely clarify, I guess. So I'm not endorsing. I think it's Ryan Elijah. There's 2 races. Was it Ryan Elijah at the beginning?
Ryan Elijah.
Yeah. So again, I did say that it was a good thing, but the second I said that, Trump ended up endorsing him an hour after that. So I was like,
Yeah.
well, is that a good? I mean, it said he didn't take any AIPAC money. I looked at his records. It says that he's a non-AIPAC funded candidate. Even though it does look like he's probably pro-Israel, he didn't seem like he was like a Zionist at least. So I guess, I mean, it is good to see, I think, like people like Corey Mills, like I want to see like the old, like kind of like the MAGA that's been there for like 10 years ish or however long he's been there, kind of like basically get their way out because people like him are useless. I want to see the Byron Donalds, the Corey Mills, the Ted Cruzes. I want to see those guys out of DC. So honestly, I think that to me is, I want to say it's a win. I'm not really sure. I don't know this. I know this Ryan Elijah guy is like a NFL like broadcaster or something. But yeah, I mean, clearly, what do you think people voted for? I mean, was there just name recognition or like, because the Corey Mills scandal, did that have anything to do with this race here?
Yeah, it all revolved around the scandal. Like we have an incumbent here losing by double digits, primarily due to controversy surrounding these, misconduct allegations. There was an alleged DOJ investigation for sex trafficking, which to this day hasn't been proven. Obviously, if anyone was being a pedophile, abusing women, that is horrible, and I obviously don't support that at all. I don't support anyone in this race. These are two nothing burgers running against each other to figure out who's going to be the better corporate puppet.
Okay.
Ryan Elijah, like, what does he have to offer? The answer is pretty much nothing. He was a local news anchor, and they just needed somebody with name recognition they could put on the ticket that could beat Mills. Because Mills, listen, he might put his pecker in some weird places, but at the end of the day, like, I don't care where he sticks his pee-pee. He actually did deliver for the district. Like, I wouldn't want him to be my congressman, but he brought millions and millions, like hundreds of millions of dollars in funding to Volusia County. He self-funded all of his campaigns to the tune of like over $5 million. He did receive money from AIPAC, but never even ended up spending it, which is kind of foolish. Like, why even take it in the first place? But he was obviously dropped by MAGA Inc., Susie Wiles in particular, James Blair. They cut him loose. They refused to help him with his reelection. And then Trump gets involved right before Election Day and kind of paves the way for a swift Ryan Elijah victory. A couple other things about Corey. He's not even allowed to go on mainstream media. They won't let him.
Really?
But here's where he went wrong. Oh, like, he is the biggest enemy of the establishment. He might be. People see him partying with Byron Donalds and they think that he's just some neocon rhino.
Yeah.
He's just genuinely friends with Byron Donalds. I think they just have fun and like drink together. Neither of them like endorse each other. They're just like good friends. Again, like, I used to like just despise Corey Mills because of all the pictures of him and Byron like drunk taking selfies together. But this guy is kind of hated by all the people that we're trying to remove from power. Here's where he went wrong. He never should have taken the foreign money, especially if you're not going to spend it. I think that's retarded. And then he should have completely embraced America first and turned on Trump. He thought that he could just coast by, get through this election, and then deliver for his constituents, and he was completely wrong. He had a terrible campaign strategy and really nobody around him because he was ostracized by the entire GOP. Like, the only operative that I know that was willing to work with him was my friend Jacob Engels. And even then, like, Corey was just on an island with no help. And then we end up with Ryan Elijah. So at the end of the day, did we get any better or worse than we were before? No. But Ryan Elijah is a lifelong, like, mainstream news anchor. He's a corporate puppet. He wears this MAGA skin suit. And he's backed by someone who I think we need to put our sights on, which is Anna Paulina Luna. Or I believe it's Meyerhofer. She changes her name all the time, former stripper. And I think, what are your thoughts on Anna Paulina Luna? I know this is kind of a sidetrack, but it's very connected to this race because she is this person that's supposed to be the outsider. She's super hot. She's cool. She's MAGA. And she's trying to get us the UFO files, and she's trying to expose MK Ultra. She's going on Joe Rogan talking about the Book of Enoch. But I think it's a psyop. What do you think about Anna Paulina Luna?
Oh yeah, I'm not a fan because I mean I was at first. She was kind of that like part of the MAGA coalition, like in the 2024. Like when I was so part of that, like she was kind of deemed as like the cool, like the against the grain, like MTG outsider. Like that was kind of the vibe with someone like her. And obviously, objectively, yeah, she's the hottest person in Congress, not even close. But again, like, it's honestly a shame that someone like her, who's in charge of declassifying the 9/11 files, the JFK files, the RFK files, MLK files, and God knows what else, we've yet to get any answer, any new evidence on any of these things. And I almost think like someone like her has to be like, she's in charge of the House committee. That's like, she's the head of that. So like, I almost can conclude that she has to be either, maybe she's not intentionally covering something up, but she's just intentionally not looking at, like, kind of like looking the other way. Because like, what's crazy is I came to more conclusions than Anna Paulina Luna did about a year and a half ago when they had the first like drop of the JFK files. I spent 6 weeks on that, and I would go and like repost my findings on there, and like I would have literally more descriptive evidence. And like, look at literally everything about James Angleton is redacted. She didn't want to talk about that. The one guy that was the head of the, creating the CIA and the OSS back in the day, and ended up trading secrets with the Israelis to get stuff on the Russians in exchange for Lee Harvey Oswald. Well, she didn't want to talk about that at all. So that's where I think she's totally fake. And yeah, I think her last name, I think her name's like fake or something. It's like not even, I think Asher Sinclair's her name's like Anna Paulina, or the Luna thing I think is fake or something. Or it's like
Meyerhofer, because she's Jewish.
That's actually her last name.
I wasn't kidding. She's Jewish, but then she's like Hispanic, but then she shapeshifts just like Kamala Harris.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't trust. I think someone like her could be a honeypot, allegedly, for get sued. But no, I mean,
she was a stripper.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, and she tries to like downplay it, like, oh, here's the internet again. I guess resurfacing my bikini picture. Just like, yeah, like this is some like pretty suggestive shit here. So little concerning that that's a person with that much authority, especially the level of transparency and classification or declassification she's dealing with. I think that's insane. So yeah, me personally, not a fan. I think someone like her is needs to be. I would support someone going against her, but I see someone like her being so like I don't know how much money she takes from AIPAC, but she probably has to be pretty deep in the swamp.
Absolutely. I think this is really interesting because a guy that we see all over the map here, who's extremely influential, who's advising a lot of these campaigns, Anthony Sabatini, James Fishback's lawyer in the residency case. On the outside, Sabatini seems awesome. He seems like the man. He seems really based. He seems really America first. But I've identified him as one of the key grifters, not just in the state of Florida, but nationwide. For example, he was James Fishback's lawyer. He represents Aaron Baker in his lawsuits against Randy Fine. And then he also convinced Dan Bilzerian to run an FL6 rather than any other district, despite the fact that we already had an America First Fishback endorsed candidate in the race. And then allegedly, he told Dan that you have to run in this race because Randy Fine's the boogeyman, and you need this is the one that's going to get you a lot of name recognition. And regardless of whether or not you win, this will put you on the map for whatever's next. And then obviously the day after the election, I guess he's announcing his 2028 presidential campaign, Dan Bilzerian, which is, I mean, we don't even need to get into that. It's so ridiculous. If we look across the board, FL11, another interesting one, he actually has previously run in FL11 and District 7. Because obviously there's some flexibility. You can kind of pick and choose where you want to run for Congress, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. Randy Fine lives 100 miles south of District 6. Dan Bilzerian doesn't even live in the district. He has a property in Tampa, I believe, and that's how he was able to make this happen. But just District 11, good friend of the show, Mike Wilnaugh, 28-year-old mechanic, father of 4, absolute beast. I mean, I had him on my show. We talked for like 2 hours straight. He answered every single question without hesitation. He thinks AIPAC should be registered with FARA. Like he is the man. He is the guy that Gen Z wants at the tip of the spear. He is the future of the party.
Didn't he drop out or something? I was supposed to have him on my show too, but I think he ended up like suspending his race or something.
Yes. Outwardly, and let's just talk about like outwardly. Externally, he said extreme financial issues and he had several deaths in the family, so he had to just call it quits. But this was right after Sabatini entered the race and immediately stole all of his thunder, got a bunch of money, pumped in the race, got got backing because he is also a county commissioner. County Commissioner Sabatini is, and he was actually ineligible to run because he was a county commissioner, and there was a whole debacle going on there. And then Wilnaw drops out. 2 weeks later, Sabatini drops out, and then he creates this.
Oh, wow.
We basically have 3 candidates that pulled the exact same because none of these guys were even in the race before Sabatini dropped out. Nobody knows who any of these people are, and we end up with kind of a toss-up, and this guy named Joe Strada wins, which is a damn shame because I loved Mike Wilnaw, and I think Anthony Sabatini is a grifter. Are you familiar with Sabatini at all? Have you seen his name out there?
So it's funny. I think I followed him on X and didn't follow me back. And I think I saw something that, like, I don't know, I feel like I had a weird vibe about that guy. I don't know him too well, but I thought he was involved with Fishback, or I don't know. I had a weird vibe about him, but yeah, I don't really know him too well.
Yeah, it's just, you can tell that he's moving a lot of cards around behind the scenes because, you know, you have Aaron Baker, Wilnaw, Fishback all endorse each other, and Sabatini's representing all of them, and then he brings in Bilzerian, who's completely opposed to that whole faction of America First to mix things up. He then injects himself into the District 11 campaign, and then immediately the 2 only America First Fishback endorsed guys we had are now completely fucked and don't have a chance at winning. He's also backing Anna Paulina Luna. He's also backing Ryan Elijah. So, like, every single race we just talked about, who's the guy that is the, like, chief political advisor and legal representative for them? It's this guy named Anthony Sabatini. We can dive into him on another day, but I need to make sure we put this out there. This guy is extremely slimy, and he had a big impact on everything we're seeing across the board here.
He just sounds like a stereotypical political operative.
Absolutely. I mean, he back in, like, DeSantis's first campaign, when he ran for state office, and he was the outsider guy. Like, everyone loved him. He was the man. He was giving the big middle finger to the establishment. I mean, he was like Thomas Massie on steroids. And then something changed. He left office and started kind of becoming a political operative, like you said. And, you know, this is where we are now. The only other race I want to look at very briefly is District 16.
I'm not.
Do you know who Sid?
Yeah, I'm
I'll
not
tell
familiar
you.
with this.
Sidney Gruters. Her husband is Joe Gruters. Joe Gruters is the chairman of the National Republican Committee, the RNC.
Really? I didn't know that.
Does she have any qualifications to run for Congress? Absolutely not. I did have Eddie Spear on my show. He's a great guy. Very influential person in Florida. He was leading the charge in the DeSantis administration trying to get medical freedom during COVID in the public education system. And Sidney Gruters came on top with money from her husband and won. I just want to touch on this. I've done some coverage of the Gruters Rift Machine. They're extremely powerful family, really, in the GOP. And we're seeing their fingers all over the map. So that's the House races. Let's move over to the one everyone's waiting for, the governor's race. Obviously, didn't shake up how I wanted it to. I'll pull up Public Sentiment Institute right now, who is in shambles right now. But I'll pull up the results because I think their website's really cool. I was able to do a lot of like mocking up of results beforehand. Byron Donalds triumphantly wins with 47.8% of the vote. But look at how crowded this primary is. I mean, there's like 12 people. And we're seeing like this person's in 6th place. Rachel Rodriguez, also an important person in the state of Florida and DeSantis administration, 27,000 votes. Bobby Williams, 69,000 votes. He's like massive on Facebook. All these people we're not even talking about, weren't even invited to debates. They're taking a significant portion of the anti-Byron vote. If we look at, see if I can pull this up. Chris Nelson posted this. It was the Byron vote versus the anti-Byron vote. Byron had 739,000 votes. Anti-Byron, so anybody but Byron, 784,000. Imagine if we just united behind one guy. We would have been in a head-to-head race. It would have been a close one, but we could have won.
Yeah.
And it's a damn shame. What were your thoughts on the governor's race? Very high level, 50,000-foot view. Like we talked about what your thoughts were going into it. How do you feel about how it shook out?
Well, I mean, I think it's disappointing to see only 10% out of Fishback, but I actually didn't even realize there were that many people running that had like 1%. I had no idea. So that definitely makes a lot more sense. But yeah, like in reality, someone like Fishback is completely different. He really does embody like what the Trump 2016 movement was. So it was good to see someone like him get out there with like not very much funding and have these massive rallies at gas stations and really see like Gen Z inspired to show up and do something. That's something that most political candidates and current representatives are unable to do. So that really does lay the groundwork for like a really solid strategy, I think, for someone else to pick that up, whether it's 28 or maybe a future run. And maybe himself. I think someone like him he's got a really good future if he wants to stay, whether it's in Florida or like the GOP or make another run again. So I think someone like him has a definitely good future ahead of him. But yeah, like again, this is kind of like seeing what happened to Thomas Massey. I really can't say I'm extremely surprised because this is what happens when you have $10 million. You get like outfunded 200 to 1.
Yep.
But the money does really have a major impact. And I'm frankly at this point, I can believe, especially after, the $30 million Massey race, that you can frankly buy any seat you want to with the right amount of money. And it doesn't matter really the merits of what you have to bring to the table. It's, someone like Fishback, who absolutely would represent Florida better than any of these guys, just frankly did not get the funding and the name recognition that he needed to win. Maybe give it another 20, maybe 10 years actually. And you have more Zoomers and millennials that are actually paying attention and voting and own property, hopefully, you're going to see more people like, have more like understanding for Fishback and see more of that as like the consensus rather than, again, like Byron Donalds. I think we saw a lot of them were, I think he got was like 55% were like boomers or something like that. It was, he ended up getting a lot of the boomer vote. And I think that the Gen Z was, and I'm curious in this one because I think it said that like the Gen Z voter was like, I think 35 and under was pretty close between Fishback and Donalds. I'm like,
neck and neck.
Yeah, I was like, who on earth would be voting? Like, what part of Gen Z is voting for Byron Donalds? That's my question. I didn't even think there was a faction that would even do that.
Right, because I guess there's maybe the people that are completely politically illiterate and just saw they probably were in their car and Googled who did Trump endorse, and then they just went check and left and didn't even think about it. But again, like 10% of the population shows up for GOP primaries. Most of them are over the age of 50. So like, as you said, like who's showing up, like getting off their ass, taking the time to go vote, probably early voting and voting for Byron Donalds. It seems really weird to me. And it's probably not people that are pro-Trump, in my opinion. If we talk about MAGA in general, like the old MAGA, the Tea Party, like the movement that we're a part of, clearly aren't aligned. And look here, 3 candidates in double digits. Do we remember what Byron Donalds' requirements were for a debate? Double digits.
Yeah.
And now he's telling us we need to unite. Fishback and Renner called me, and they're ready to get behind me and unite the GOP to take down David Jolly. I don't believe that for one second. Fishback has not confirmed that. Renner has not confirmed that. Both of their camps have come out and said they're going to vote for David Jolly. This is something really interesting. I don't know how familiar you are with David Jolly. You don't really need to be familiar. Basically, he's a white guy with a young family. He's a lifelong Republican, and he's extremely moderate.
Well, actually,
Byron Donalds.
Correct me if I'm wrong here. I did look into his past. I think he was very interesting. He was a former, state representative or state legislator in Florida from 2014 to 17, but then he ended up, leaving and switching to an independent. Now he's running as a Democrat. Not too sure what his ideals or ideology is that makes him a Democrat, but I'm very interested to see though, because I've absolutely would not be supporting Byron Donalds and would surely support in opposition to him.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, because Byron Donalds has spent the entire primary going after David Jolly. He's a socialist. He's a communist. We need to take him down. And then he goes on TV this week and says, I reject the DSA. I reject socialism. He is very moderate. Is he a little too flexible on DEI and transgenderism and abortion? Yeah. And those abortion's definitely a line in the sand for me, but he opposes AI centers. He opposes flock. All the hot button issues, he's on the right side of it.
So you guys will
he has it down.
So I guess worst case, you guys will basically get a Florida version of Andy Bashir. This is what it sounds like.
100%. Yes.
Yeah, I would take that. In this certain situation, I think we need to punish the GOP. I would say that's necessary. Now, in ordinary terms, I would say absolutely not. This is not really like, and that's the thing that a lot of people that, not even a lot, there's just a really big confusion and divide when people think that when I'm trying to punish the Republicans that, well, no, why would you want to do that? Like, it's like, no, it's in reality, I'm not voting for Democrat policies. I want to make sure that the Republicans that have betrayed us lose and they get kicked out of DC and we actually can replace them with someone else in the future. You can't do that unless you actually, you go against the upper echelons and the power structure. That's just, frankly, I guess maybe people don't understand how it works, but just like, I think there's a misconception. I'm not voting for Democrats because I agree with them. Not even saying I'm even going to vote for a Democrat. I'd be able to do that. But to say that I'm willing to hop on board with some of their candidates to go against the mainstream GOP that's basically the Israel party at this point. Yeah, I mean, I really don't see how that's like, honestly, the worst thing.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. We cannot reward bad behavior. Like if your dog pisses on the carpet, do you go over there and hand him a treat? Or do you give him a little smack on the butt? You give him a little smack on the butt because that is corrective behavior. That's how we force change. We can't just not do anything. We can't be apathetic because then we get the same results over and over again. For me personally, like I actually don't care if you vote blue or you stay home. Just don't vote for Byron Donalds. I think that's the takeaway. Like we tried everything we could in the primary. And at this point, again, if we want to solve this apathy problem we have, not just as a party, but just any common sense person in this country, the people that showed up and were part of the Trump 2024 coalition, if we want to get them not just to get to the ballot box in 2028, but if we want to actually get them engaged in the next couple months, it's going to require a gridlock in Congress. It's going to require some of our deepest red states going blue. It's going to require pain. And when people feel enough pain, they will change their behavior. Like again, we now have to change the behavior of the regular American and turn them into activists because that is how our constitutional republic was built. It was built for an active populace. Benjamin Franklin said, we're giving you a republic if you can keep it. If you can keep it. And we're at the point where we're letting it slip away. And I have absolutely no problem with David Jolly winning. It does hurt. Like as a Christian, as a common sense person, it would really suck. Especially if you're someone that is a transplant. You moved to Texas, you moved to Florida for those conservative values, to be around like-minded people and to see one of those states flip, like we're definitely going to see here in Texas. It's painful. It really is painful. The governor's race, obviously super crowded, but there were some pretty solid options across the board. Like if we take a look, I mean, Jay Collins is a nothing burger, but he's the lieutenant governor for Ron DeSantis. He ends up getting 25% of the vote for that reason only. Apparently, he mailer bombed and did a Fox News ad spree literally like the 3 days leading up to the election, and a bunch of retards basically saw it, boomers, Gen Xers, and went to go vote for him because in Florida, it's so unique because people call it Trump country. It's like, well, no, it's actually DeSantis country, and they like Trump because of DeSantis. There is a rivalry there, and if they have to pick one or the other, they're going to go DeSantis. Now, so many people are disenfranchised with Trump, then like these are the people that are telling us that, oh, DeSantis needs to run in 2028. So this is definitely a pro-DeSantis state, and I think that's how Jay Collins got away with that. It's that and money.
Why do you Fishback think can I ask, like, why does DeSantis refuse to endorse anyone? Why did he like get involved in any of the races?
It's all about his political future. He actually doesn't like Jay Collins at all. There's a ton of conflict going on within that administration. Jay Collins actually had to sue the DeSantis administration to investigate Fishback's residency, which DeSantis was pissed about. Jay Collins, his wife has a burner account. She talks shit on DeSantis. They found out, and there's a bunch of internal meetings about it. Fishback, let's take a couple steps back. Do you know why he launched his campaign in the first place?
I don't actually.
Insider info. Obviously, before Fishback even entered, it was this was right after the 2024 primary, and there was a bunch of beef between Trump and DeSantis because DeSantis tried to steal the presidential primary from him. Mm-hmm. And DeSantis had his wife set up to run for governor. She basically she was teasing it. She was doing rallies and campaigning, but like hadn't officially put her name in the hat. Then Trump puts Byron in there to be a spoiler. Byron and DeSantis hate each other. I think there was a time when they got along. They hate each other. So Fishback was an economic advisor for DeSantis, and allegedly, he had him go in as a spoiler candidate. He's like, hey, go with the far right angle, go with the Nick Fuentes Groyper type angle. I think at the time they didn't really even understand what a Groyper was. This was right before the generational run, but like, hey, go be like the pro-liberty, far-right Christian nationalist guy. And he did it and immediately blows up and kind of cuts loose and decides to take it as far as he can. This is the word on the street. I don't want to make any definitive claims, but we can see like this is the nature of the Florida governor primary. It was DeSantis pulling all the strings from behind the scenes, but not endorsing anyone because he wants to run for president again. He sees Trump crumbling. He sees the MAGA coalition crumbling. The old MAGA is extremely unpopular, and he doesn't want to endorse a guy that doesn't win because then that makes him a loser. I think it's like the Trump method. He also doesn't want to endorse someone that is going to impact his platform in 2028. He's a grifter. Like he goes wherever the wind is, wherever like the popular Republicans are, that's where he kind of goes over to. We've seen a lot of great rhetoric out of him recently, but he's the same guy that signs a anti-free speech, anti-Semitism law into law in Florida. He's the same guy that passes the 2018 gun laws. He's the same guy that has red flag laws in Florida. Like everyone talks about Paul Renner. This is former Speaker of the House during the special session during COVID. Very close ally of DeSantis. He enters the race late, and DeSantis like immediately was like, "Why would you do this, you fucking idiot? I put Fishback in here for a reason to screw it up for Byron." It all just blows up. But everyone tells me, I don't know how much you know about Paul Renner. I mean, he was neck and neck with Fishback. Like we have 8% for Paul Renner, 10% for Fishback. All these people that vote for Paul Renner would have voted for Fishback, but not vice versa, because Paul Renner's kind of a household name in Florida, so people know who he is. So they see his name on the ballot, they recognize him, and they vote for him because he represents something different, something that like restoring old Florida. Fishback, we saw the numbers. The people he's getting out to vote are first-time voters and young people. These people were motivated to come out because Fishback was creative, he was bold, he had motion. If Fishback drops out and says, you know what, Renner, you're going to be the America First guy, I'm going to get behind you, are those people going to be motivated to show up in a GOP primary, especially if they've never voted before?
Oh, no.
No, absolutely not. And, everyone personally, I thought he was going to be Fishback's lieutenant governor. As soon as Fishback announced Lozano as his lieutenant governor, I immediately said Paul Renner is a spoiler. I have zero doubt he's working with Collins and Donalds and DeSantis behind the scenes to screw this up. And I think I was right. His whole thing was, hey, I have experience, but I had the exact same platform as Fishback. Like Fishback had his campaign site. He had his, 20-point plan of everything he was going to do. Paul Renner copied and pasted it and said, I am Fishback, but I have experience and I don't come with any baggage. And the reality is experience isn't a blank check. It's a record. Records deserve scrutiny. And then everything I just told you about DeSantis, it was brought to the floor by Speaker Renner. So again, this is a huge shit show, absolute jungle primary, completely crowded. And we basically had no chance of winning this to start with. My question here, why didn't any of these candidates run for Senate? Notice how nobody's talking about Florida Senate race, but we had a big one. Ashley Moody just runs away with it with a Trump endorsement. Mm-hmm. Well, imagine if one of these people, anti-establishment Republicans, decided to run in that race. Like, why did everyone focus on the governor's race, do you think, Kacee?
That's a great question. I think, I don't know. I think that's with a lot of people, though. Like, most people, they almost, like, shoot for too much. They kind of, and it's not a bad thing, though. It's you're shooting for really high expectations. You want to believe that you can obtain the highest position of power and not sell yourself short. But you got to be realistic with what you're capable of in fundraising and what you're actually able to do. So, yeah, like Fishback, if had he run any of the Senate races, I mean, even for Congress, I think he for sure would have won. I don't see how he couldn't have won in any less of a leadership role. So yeah, I don't know what the whole. I guess it clearly shows that this is a very important election with the gubernatorial race in Florida, and there's a lot of investment in this clearly. But yeah, I would think it probably would be better tactic moving forward, even like a Fishback. Like even I actually recommend for Doug. Man, I think run for state rep, run for Congress, run for Senate.
Yeah.
I understand, like, you want to, you want to be the next president, you want to be the next governor. That's very tough. It's very difficult. You have to have, I mean, I think to be a governor, I would say you got to have $5 to $10 million, if not more. To be a congressman, you need $1 to $3 million. To be a senator, um, you probably also need 10 million bucks in some cases. So,
Yep.
yeah, it's not easy. And I think, some people, if they want to actually work their way up the ladder, if that's actually how it works anymore, you start, city councilman, state rep. I think I realized that name recognition is a big thing, especially even when I was in Florida. It's like, if you have name recognition, you definitely do have a lot of leverage. And, I think if you had either, maybe in this case, have already made a run before, or at least had some sort of position in, like in the clerk's office, or like at least had done something within the city governance, I think you're definitely giving yourself a better chance, especially going up against like the Trump endorsing AIPAC guys. Because like, whereas like if you're just now getting into politics and you're trying to run for Congress, governor, president, and you're trying to win everybody over, you would have already saved time had you maybe done a year in city council, or done a year, working somewhere in the courts, or working, being the state representative. You've already gotten the constituents' trust, and you've already known that many people. I think it saves you time moving forward, and definitely helps you out. So, yeah, I think that people like Fishback, and I think that's a big message as well. It's like, I'm not saying people shouldn't shoot for the stars and try to become the next, Donald Trump. But again, I think everyone needs to realize that, there's a role for everybody. And I think we do need people, especially in the lower levels of governance, to take position of power that are America first. I think that's really, you can penetrate a lot locally more than you can nationally. So yeah, I would think that should be a focus moving forward for sure. And I would love to even help people out that are running for state rep and city council, because that's where, especially we're seeing like these flat cameras and a lot of things, like there's a lot of value in having like things done locally, and you can make a lot more difference, I believe, in many cases, or at least equally enough as you can nationally. So yeah, again, like, very disappointed to see overall, but I do hope that this is a learning lesson in many ways, and this can be, something next time that we can all end up, let's say that the next Fishback gets 20% or 50%, ends up winning that election. And it's some of these things, like it is, you said divided coalition, you had all those people running many of these races. That's part of it. But, again, this, I think the money part would have definitely helped Fishback out too. If he had gotten another like $5 million, another $1 million probably would have done a lot too. But just getting as much funding as possible. That's where I've been saying there's got to be like an America First billionaire somewhere, someone that can just dump money, like Elon Musk can just dump money into the
We had our guy for a while.
yeah, Elon promised to donate to Thomas Massey. He didn't do anything. I mean, he said, "Yeah, I'm going to donate to him. I'm going to provide some money for." Yeah, not shit. So, yeah. So I mean, it really does. I really do need someone like that can just come in and just dispense cash to the people that need it, because the opposition, the Israel lobby, the big pharma lobby, like all of them, that they hold the cards. They have everything they need. So, that's where you just have to have the right pushback. And again, it's like I said, it's a two-front war. You could just go for it full on. You could just, send it all and hope you win. Which we do need people that are like Fishback, that will do that. But also, I think there needs to be a coalition. There needs to be like some infiltration, I think, on the lower levels, like in city council, state rep. Then you're kind of positioning yourself to take over and be the next congressman or governor. So I think that would be a very good strategy. I would like to employ it. I'd like to see, in Florida, Kentucky, Tennessee, all of other, states that are about, I think really what our founding fathers envisioned.
What's next for Fishback?
That's a great question. I don't know. He hasn't really announced, I guess, anything. I guess for sure he can say he's going to be an influencer for sure. I think you're going to see this guy kind of like as an unofficial, like Groyper General, or like America First General, some sort of like that, like kind of like the commander. I don't know. He's definitely going to have some sort of like unofficial leadership role. I mean, you can see he's got really good engagement. His social media team did a hell of a job. So, yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere. This guy he's got influence for a reason. And even though he's not going to be the next governor, he's certainly, just like Thomas Massey. I mean, Massey is very influential online. He gets like 40K likes and can ratio anybody, probably even the president if he wanted to. So yeah, like I don't think Fishback's going to go anywhere. I hope he does. I don't think he's going to be old enough to run for president in 2028 and 28. So I hope maybe down the road, maybe he's like the guy in 32. But I don't know. I would love to see. I hope that people are inspired by Fishback, and you see like 1,000 more James Fishbacks or 1,000 more Nick Fuenteses or people that are like that. So that's where my hope is. But yeah, I'm not really sure what Fishback's going to do personally. I've never even talked to him. I tried to get an interview with him, but didn't happen. So yeah, I've got no idea. I think someone like him was definitely a very was a net positive for sure in the America First movement.
Absolutely. I think for him, just my personal opinion, it's going to be two-pronged because we're heading into an off cycle, right? Like we have 2 years until 2028. What do you do? I think there's a mixture of politics and media. I posted an article yesterday morning. It's a call to action. I think Fishback should run for Florida GOP chairman. Evan Power, the guy that he got third place in the second district race. He's the current chairman. He refused the debates. He locked grassroots candidates out of the primary. He micromanaged the primary to predetermine the outcomes. Like whoever sets the direction for the Florida GOP is setting the direction for the entire Republican Party nationwide. This is really important. Like whatever the state does, the national party follows. The Florida GOP chairman also, because again, you're Fishback. You just ran for governor. You can't go run for Congress. You can't go run for state rep. Like you got to run for governor again or shoot even higher and get to president. He's 31 years old, so president's way down the road. Byron's going to be in there, or whoever wins this race is going to be in there for 4 years. This is a lot of time. So politically, if you want to keep fighting Byron Donalds, I think you run for Florida GOP chair. If he would have won the primary and become the next governor, he could still be the Florida GOP chair. You're allowed to do both. I was really hoping that would be the outcome. Either way, this is the guy that controls the purse strings. He's the guy that controls what the priorities are for the party, regardless who governor is. I think this would be really interesting. I hope he considers it. I hope the Fishback team has seen the article. It did pretty well. The other part politically is sit and wait for the 2028 marching orders. Obviously, we're going to have to start campaigning right away after this general. I think he just needs to latch on to whoever that 2028 Christian nationalist dark horse is and be a part of the campaign and then join that administration until he reaches 35. And then I'd love to see him run for president one day, to be completely honest with you. And then we look at the media side. Obviously, he's going to start some sort of podcast. I think the safest play is to start a podcast on a politically aligned, well-established network. So you have consistent viewership, you have a steady income, because obviously his finances are a little shoddy right now. I think he was probably relying pretty heavily on campaign financing. Now he needs to figure out how to roll that over to a super PAC or something and figure out how to stay afloat. I think it's going to be NXR Studios. Joel Webbin actually traveled to Florida last night. He was on PBD this morning. I wouldn't be shocked if he was having meetings with Fishback throughout the day.
I could totally see that. That's actually a great idea.
Are you going to the NXR conference? Are you familiar?
So I know so I'm actually mutual with Joe Webb, but never talked to.
Oh, love it.
Does he have I guess he has his own conference? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he has this media network, and they are putting on the Crisis King America After Trump conference, and we're just going to. This is like right after the primary. This would have been like 3 days after the governor's election in Florida. Fishback's a keynote speaker. Alex Jones is the keynote speaker Thursday night. Alex Stein, Harrison Smith, all the guys from NXR. It's going to be a really interesting group. And the one qualification, because we've had TPUSA, we've had CPAC, but we've never had an all-Christian gathering of men. And he's like, yeah, let's start it. And he did it. And I think this is going to be where the plans are made for 2028. This is where we're going to really pick sides and figure out who our guy is. Or because I think for us, if we look at America First and then we look at MAGA or whatever the Trump Inc. is right now, the Trump wing, they have the man, they don't have a plan. Like it's going to be JD or it's going to be Marco, but they don't have any sort of plan because they're either going to piss us off or they're going to piss the neocons off. Like they can't win both and they don't know how to toe that line. They can't build a coalition. For us, we have a plan. Like we know what we're going to do. We just have no idea who the guy's going to be.
Well, I'm just hoping everyone
ideas?
comes together. Me personally, because so I'm actually about next Wednesday. I'm going up to a private conference in Shelter Island in New York, for the Independent Voices tour. It's going to be it's hosted by the Free and Equal Society, Free and Equal. I just can't remember the name. Girl I know, really cool, Christina Tobin. She actually it's gonna be Russell Brand, Joe Kent, a bunch of like independent guys. But
Love it.
so I am hearing though. I'm wondering. I'm not. I don't know if I can publicly report this. We'll see if it happens when I'm there. But I'm hearing rumors that someone like Joe Kent could be trying to like get involved with like a third party, like a libertarian part, like some sort of like movement is definitely going on here. I know I did a video on this like not too long ago, one of my shows, but there is like a kind of divide or consensus on this, especially with the gropers and like the American First movement with guys like Joe Kent and MTG and Massey. I was wondering your take on that because I did kind of give a little bit of pushback to even someone like Nick. I reacted to one of his videos. Look, I'm a Thomas Massey supporter. I can't say a bad thing about the guy. I really don't think that I could. I mean, he's a libertarian for sure. So he's not going to be like, I mean, he'll disagree with what, like maybe the free market, like maybe tariffs or something, something like not really that important compared to like the real issues. But, and again, I get someone like, Nick might have issues with like MTG and Kent personally, but, I had Kent on my show, really cool guy. I'm probably gonna have MTG on here soon. Awesome. I think what they did was, I mean, nothing short of courageous. I mean, yeah, like you're going against the grain, you're going against the Trump establishment that, I mean, you honestly there's really no incentive, I would say, financially and career-wise to go against them. I mean, yeah, you're basically, you're going to start the foundation and you're going to be popular to the people, it going away from the Trump movement. But at the same time, like that's where all the money, that's where like really your political career is. So, I think it was really cool to see guys like Kent step down. MTG, I guess, I would rather wish she should have stayed in Congress. I'm not really sure what happened with the whole scandal there, but, I think it's cool to see a lot of them, come out and at least try to have a foundation here. And even guys like Tucker too, who again, I will admit there is a bit of suspicion there with his dad in the CIA and maybe switch up in positions. But honestly, like if that's what we have right now, it's like I'm totally on that side. If it's against Lindsey Graham and Trump and Ted Cruz and all that, if that's a compromise, I got to vote for go with like a Liberty, maybe former establishment. Maybe they've got a shady past. Honestly, I'm going to choose them over the Lindsey Grahams and the not Lindsey Graham, but I guess people like that. You get the point.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you think the two-party system can be reformed. It seems like you're pretty open-minded to just figuring out who has the best message. That doesn't really matter. I've thought about this a lot. The leaked meeting of Massey, Kent, Carlson, and Marjorie Taylor Greene was really interesting. I got pretty excited, and Tucker said he was going to have this live stream to talk about it, and I was waiting all day, and I was so excited, and it was really just a big nothing burger. They didn't announce anything. He just talked about, everything's going to be great. We want people to be equal and fair and happy and prosperous, and that's our plan. And I immediately was like turned off by that. The reason that people are disenfranchised with Trump, the reason his approval rating is so low is because he's not principled. It's because he's morally corrupt, because he made promises and didn't deliver. It's because he compromised to not just like to regular people. He compromised with evil. He said, leave abortion up to the states. And now we have children literally being murdered after they're born. Now we have, government-assisted suicide under his watch. We need a hardliner. We need someone who is not going to compromise on things that matter, on Christian and nationalist principles, Christian values especially. So for me, the boomers and Gen Xers aren't going to die before 2028. Like we have a year and a half. Like we have to start campaigning in a couple months. I'm all for like abandoning the two-party system. I think Washington was right. I think our founding fathers were right. Like beware of party loyalties. Ultimately, can we win in 2028 with a third party? I don't think so. I think it's the same issue with like the Dan Bilzerians, like, hey, let's just all rally around no foreign influence, and then we don't have a plan for anything else. We don't have any plan for reforming the government, tearing apart the bureaucracy, bringing a Doge chainsaw to tear apart the bureaucracy, to balance the budget. Like, we need someone to come in as a Christian nationalist dark horse reformer. And like, how does this happen? Well, we got the blueprint. Politico published an article and said it's unlikely that James Fishback's head-turning mad dash through Florida's political landscape will end in victory. Yet, it's just as likely that should he lose, he will go down as the most influential loser in recent political history. Fishback won every single college precinct in the state. I think it was somewhere around 98% at the Florida State precinct and both University of Tampa precincts. The young people like Fishback. They like his movement, and they were moved by his strategy. And now we kind of know where he fell short. Like, he should have started phone banking much earlier. He should have started knocking doors much earlier. He shouldn't relied so much on digital as long as he did, as that was his spark, but it took him a while to build out the ground game. But any candidate in 2028 that does not disenfranchise the youth will have an army of 500,000 plus volunteers in the state caucuses and the primaries. And when we do this, the boomers, the traditional older people, they're going to vote down the line, the party line, every single time. They don't care. They have their ears plugged, and they're just letting the establishment pound them in the ass. Like, they don't give a shit. We're not changing them no matter what we do. I mean, I've tried with my grandma. It's never going to work. No matter what I do, no matter how articulate I am, I'm not changing her mind. So what do? If we have a third party, that entire older generation is going to vote elsewhere. They might even coalesce around one of the traditional parties and totally screw us. We don't have to worry about the boomers if we reform the GOP. How do we do this?
Well, I think it's, again, to be honest, it's tough because I don't think that the way things are headed, it's almost like the sabotage of the Republican Party and the Trump movement has to be intentional. And I think that's kind of what's happening now. And I think you're going to see like the rise of the DSA, unfortunately. And the way things are looking, the blueprint is going to be, a socialist AOC type candidate that's going to win in 28. I think that's probably if I had to take a guess, that's probably what's going to happen. I think that's maybe not an AOC, maybe like a John Ossoff, like someone like that. I do think the Democrats are very easily going to win because, I mean, Trump has given them everything from every reason, from Israel to all the scandals. So, I mean, the national debt, I mean, he's just given them every single, basically low hanging fruit to go against. So, again, I don't know, the Republican parties, it's going to be tough. It's already so deeply entangled, and that's where I'm kind of focused on just trying to really just sabotage what the establishment and just get some guys impeached, get these people, prosecuted, get them at least to halt what they're doing now, so we can stop the Iran war, get real justice when it comes to the Epstein files. But again, like it's just really tough because it's going to take a lot of time, and I'm not expecting anything to happen soon. So morally, I cannot support the DSA. I can't support these radical far left socialists that want to flood America with all these third worldists, and they want white people to be basically genocided. So I cannot support that at all. But at the same time, if the reality is, like it's an Israel first Republican candidate or some DSA far leftist, I might just stick with my moral principles, accepting a loss and just go with a third party and just say, you know what, the best we can do is, if the Republican Party can't be reformed in 2 years or a year and a half, which is very unlikely in that amount of time frame, I think it's better to stick to principles, because just knowing and just looking ahead and being real is saying it's probably going to be a far left Democrat that takes office. But you know what? I'm going to take my pride, my principles, and we're going to get 10%, 15%, 20%. We're going to pull off another Ross Perot like we saw with Clinton and them, and where they got 37% as a third party. So even though it's a loss, I think it's a necessary one. I mean, you're at least taking votes away. So that's where I'm at. I'm not expecting any. I do hope there's a dark horse, like you said. And again, I've got some names. I think some of the people we talked about earlier, and I really don't know how serious like a John McEntee would be. I mean, maybe, but I think someone like that would be interesting, and I would support them in a heartbeat, even though I'm independent now. I would support a Republican that has those principles. But in reality, there's not enough time. We're kind of seeing what's happening now. And the left, frankly, when it comes to the debate stage in 28, when we have whoever the heck is the Republican nominee, how are they going to defend the Trump administration? How are they going to defend everything that's happened? I don't, especially if you're like a Vance or if you're like a Rubio, they'll have to tiptoe up about the Israel issue because they want to get the funding and the donations, and they can't upset the donors. So you have literally anyone. All they got to do is say is, "Well, fuck Israel." Okay, well, you win. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, unfortunately, that's just how, and especially like that's the Trump administration, and besides the Israel stuff, the number two thing that's just really costing the Republican Party right now is their failure to address the affordability issue, especially with Gen Z. They promised they would do that, and they've done the exact opposite. Just basically on par with the Biden administration. When you have literally DSA candidates and all these Democrats that are saying free college, free Medicaid, Medicaid for all, I mean, unfortunately, the environment you're creating for some of these kids, you're going to get them to be more enticed to be socialist and communist. And that is literally on the really kind of created by the Republican apparatus. That's kind of voicing that popularity. And I think that's a problem. So that's, again, that if kind of getting back to why I want to destroy the Republican Party right now and bring them down, is because they're enabling the socialism. They're forcing people, they're pushing people onto these crazy Hassan Pikers. And again, I mean, I'm sure I'm nowhere near a communist. I don't think I ever could be. But I mean, there's like, I mean, the only thing I could honestly agree with, or maybe even side with communists or people that think like that is just the corrupt power when it comes to, the institutions, right? I mean, I believe in nationalizing a lot of things, but that's the only thing I could probably agree with when it comes to people like that. So, and I'm not going to vote for them.
No, I totally agree. It's nobody knows what we should do. And the problem is we need to figure this out by November 3rd or whatever it is. Like, we have no time, and we need to organize. We need to be united. And for me, I'm really just trying to think logically, can we build a coalition? How do we actually win? My friend Jose Vega, I had him on the show 2 weeks ago. He was one of the LaRouge guys. He's running for Congress as an independent in New York's 15th congressional district, but his strategy is two-pronged. He ran in the Democrat primary against Richie Torres, who was like the Randy Fine of the Democrat Party, but he's also has enough signatures to be an independent. So after he lost in the primary, he was still on the ballot as an independent, and he's probably going to fuck Richie Torres over, which is kind of his whole plan. He wanted to just do everything he could. Like, we should have done this with Randy Fine. It would have been awesome. There's no time anymore to do it. That would have been a great plan if someone, thought about it ahead of time and actually planned their congressional campaign. But I think if we can't get our guy nominated in the GOP, 100%, like, we'll all get behind the third party, the independent, whoever it is, whether it's like taking over an existing third party, creating one out of thin air, or just being independent, whatever it is. Like, I'm in. Like, I'll be there. I was prepared to vote for RFK in 2024 until he conceded and, Trump got shot or whatever the fuck actually happened at Butler. Yeah. And then I was on the Trump train again. I thought I never would be, but I was. And if we look at the DSA, like, the Democrats are rolling out the red carpet for these folks. Like, there's some pushback, but it's really just the, like, candidates that are funded by AIPAC that don't want the gravy train to stop. If you think about the puppet holder, like, the real puppeteers of the DNC are the George Soros, Alex Soros types that really just want chaos and tyranny. How do they get tyranny? I think socialism, which evolves into communism, is a great method. I think the DSA is taking over the Democrat Party. They seem pretty open to it. I think that's where we're going. I hear from the Tucker Carlson types, everyone at that meeting, let's create a unity coalition. Let's focus on the things we can agree on. Yeah, everyone is against Israel. Nobody wants foreign influence in our government. I mean, that's pretty clear, but we're going to see the DSA folks stay with the Democrat Party. Personally, I think we will. There's an effort to make inroads with, like, the Young Turk types. But again, these people, if they have a DSA candidate, I think they're just going to go with them. And the people that are like LaRouge members, like Jose Vega, Diane Sayers running for president, they will get behind whatever this Tucker Carlson third party is, but they are such a small portion of the left. If you identify as a Democrat, which the LaRouge people don't, and all these, like, common sense Young Turk types, you are completely lost, and we're never going to win you over. And you are such a... They are a firm voting bloc, and I feel like it's unbreakable. The real curveball is where the DSA lands. I think it's going to land the Democrat Party. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe we can win them over. Do we really want to? I think if I'm going to steelman this and think it from your perspective or Tucker's perspective, it's like, hey, let's tell everybody that we're going to just focus on foreign policy, get that cleaned up, take back control of our government, and nothing else really matters. But everyone in the cabinet is, a conservative Christian. I'm cool with that. I'd rather that than the left-wing version of it, which evolves into tyranny. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I'm just saying what I think is going to likely happen, not what I want to happen. I do think that it's likely as of right now, as it stands, that you're going to see a DSA type or maybe a DSA light get into office. Maybe not like the radical of the radical ones, like trying to think of an example here. I don't know if Oliver Larkin was a good example. I guess someone that would just, really did espouse like they wanted to like end prisons. I mean, some really insane type stuff. But I guess that's the reality. It's just, I think that's probably going to happen because of the abysmal failure of Trump and the Republicans. And I just think morally the best thing that's going to be on the table, there's always a libertarian party. There's always an independent candidate. And we're not even taking off the table or the possibility of a third party. So that's why I'm independent and I'm just waiting to see what happens. But right now, that's why I'm not too quick to judge. And I think that until there's an actual movement or a candidate or something really to get behind, you got to go with what you have. And right now, even though I guess whatever Tucker's 10-point plan was, I don't really understand what that's supposed to mean. Maybe it's something for I guess like a foreshadow of the future. I don't know what maybe there's something more to that, but no, I mean, I think that out of that group, there's definitely going to be one of those people. I would assume if nobody else is going to run, very likely will. Whether it's a Kent, Carlson, Massey, MTG, if there's nobody else, there's nobody else on the table. It's literally a Marco Rubio versus Gavin Newsom or AOC. Then I'm definitely going to vote for one of them. I'll definitely even go campaign.
Totally.
I'll help them out too. So even though it's like, I mean, historically you're not likely to win, but also, I mean, crazy times lend crazy results. Look at what happened with Ross Perot. I mean, there's so many disenfranchised people like there are now. I don't think
look at RFK. I mean, he got
right.
He was polling at 23% the November before the election. He ended up probably around like 17, 11 when he dropped out. But we're getting to that point. The problem is are we there now? Are we there for 2028? I don't know. So I think all the effort right now for us as Christian nationalists, as patriots, needs to be on not just strategizing, but executing our plan for 2028. We have a strategy, we have a blueprint. It's a Fishback blueprint. We know what went wrong. We know what we need to change. I don't want to misspeak when I say a GOP reformer. I don't want to just take over the GOP and then be president for 4 to 8 years and then hand it over to somebody else. No, I want to infiltrate the infrastructure. And that this is going to be, taking over young Republicans, local GOP chapters, local county councils, whatever it is, and actually becoming the bureaucracy that we've been fighting for so long. And then once we have power, once we get a guy in, burn it to the absolute ground and build something completely. I'm talking about move into someone's house, burn it down, go build a new one, bring everyone over to the new house. I'm not saying we need to keep the two-party system forever. I have, since I started the show, say we need to shatter the two-party system into 1,000 pieces, JFK style. That is where we need to get to. Our founding fathers were right. But I think we're seeing, no matter how much people love these grassroots candidates, money plays a factor, right? Money plays a factor, and you need enough grassroots support to override the fraud. We can get that sort of activism for a presidential campaign. We can't get it for a governor's, a state race, a congressional race. If it's a presidential election year, I think we can get it done. And there's two ways. I want to pitch this to you, because if we can't get our guy in, I'm all in on the third party or the independent. But we need to try everything we can to get a good guy in there. Because worst case, we get a good guy in there, and we also have a great guy that's an independent, and we can kind of pick and choose which one's better and then go from there. But here's our strategy. And we have to infiltrate the state and local party chapters. I said the young Republicans. You have to join. Nick Fuentes says hide your power levels, play the long game. Here's the problem. They are part of the party establishment apparatus, and they will blackball members, as you know, that don't toe the party line in general elections. So if you just stay there and hide your power levels and 2028 comes around, you are powerless because you never voiced your opinion. You never got to a position of power. I mean, I think he's implying work your way up and just go with the flow until you're running the show and then completely reform it. Like I said, like I know you tried to do. I don't know if that's the way to do it. I think we need a counter, almost like a counter to TPUSA. TPUSA was that vehicle. It didn't matter what Young Republicans were doing. It didn't matter what the state GOP was doing. We had TPUSA that was doing the groundwork, getting young people involved. Now TPUSA is completely discredited. We need to create something new. Like, I've heard, I don't want to say any names. I know someone who is working with the John Birch Society to build out a like Young Republicans through the John Birch Society that is going to basically rival TPUSA and Young Republicans in every single jurisdiction. I think that's a good idea. And at the end of the day, like I don't know what I can do. Like I can go join my local Young Republicans. I don't think I'll last very long with my opinions. Where people like you and me can make an impact. There's politics and then there's media. What built the Trump coalition? It's independent media. Like we said, fuck the mainstream media. We're going to do this ourselves. The problem is, back in the day, InfoWars gets shut down. Everyone goes underground. We all get fucked because they're the tip of the spear. When the tip of the spear goes down, it was extremely centralized. People counted on Alex Jones to have them on their show. They count on Alex Jones to have them on his show in order to have a platform, have an audience. When that went away, they all went away. They all went underground, and it was rough. So we need a decentralized network of independent journalists. Alex Jones doesn't have enough money to have a reporter in every single state. Neither does Tucker Carlson. They don't have enough money to go 24 hours a day, and they don't need it. We need to build a network. All these journalists mostly already exist. And we're seeing more and more show up every day. I mean, look at us, man. Like we're new to the game, but we're making moves, and our messaging is on point. We're engaged. We're on the ground. We're getting involved in these local races. We need to start regional.
Mm-hmm.
From a financial perspective, we don't want just someone that's feeding us money, because if that money flow gets cut off, we're all fucked. We all need to stay independent. We just need to communicate. We need to be on message. We need to coordinate, and the message needs to come from the top down, and the local issues and the campaigns and the elections need to be bottom up. I feel like there is a way we can build some sort of network that's almost like a hydra, where if you cut off one head, it just gets more powerful. It's not like InfoWars at the tip of the spear. It's like we are the InfoWars. InfoWars is gone. We're going to be the InfoWar. What are your thoughts on building some sort of network of independent journalists that can work together to build? Because if you look at, I'll just give you an example, then I'll let you talk. Let's look at Doug Chico in the 1st Congressional District. He's putting everything on the line. Like, he can't just go get a corporate job after this, after he took a stand against the establishment. He, I'm sure, faced some foul play. I'm sure there was some funny business in his race, but nobody really covered it besides guys like you. Like, if something like that happens, we should be able to put up a signal and send it to headquarters to the guys that have the big platforms and put it on blast. Like there needs to be a way to have a decentralized network financially and independently operated, but are moving in sync and communicating with each other. Does this make sense?
Well, so what you're saying is that actually does exist. I will say I'm part of some of these networks that already do exist. Not like nothing establishment. This is more of like grassroots, kind of like the I don't know, behind the scenes type stuff. What you're saying,
coalitions,
great word for it. But basically, what I would say is, I do see a lot of infiltration, and I've heard a lot of people that. Again, I don't know how successful this is, but I do know there's a lot of infiltration going on with the Heritage Foundation and TPUSA in particular too. And I do think that there is some progress being made there. I don't know how much that's going to be able to culminate in the next year and a half. We'll have to see. Maybe it could. I think that could be enough time, especially with the unfortunate opening with Turn Point USA. That is realistically looking at it from a business standpoint. Yeah, that could be a very important asset. And I think it will be moving forward. Obviously, with the passing of Charlie Kirk, I don't know how influential that's going to be. It definitely does have a lot institutional, with the money they get. Like, they're part of the GOP basically still. But But yeah, I think that's kind of what's going to have to happen, right? Just going to, regardless where we end up in the next 2 to 5 years, that this has to happen on a mainstream level. There has to be these independent networks. It has to be, especially the media side. I think we're really lacking just really an incentive. I mean, we have things like Rumble. That's a platform.
Yeah.
It's not a network, though. I mean, an actual
Mhm.
funded network where you have a lineup of shows, kind of like I think InfoWars would have had they not been attacked with billions of dollars of lawsuits. I think they probably would have been that. I think they would have been a
Yeah.
company that would have been huge. They would have had hundreds of shows, hundreds of channels. Probably. I mean, hell, I would have loved to work for them if I had the opportunity.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I think that those things can and will happen, and but I guess patience is virtue, though. It has to be this is a process, and it's going to take some time. It's not, again, like, because I was at the point right now, 3.5 years into my political media career. It's like, I thought you could change things overnight within a year. You can in some cases, but
Yeah.
you also have to realize that's not the case for every single election, every issue, every problem you have. You're going to have to, wait for maybe even a decade, possibly longer. So, and that's where I'm kind of like, okay, you know what? I'm going to play my part and get a fight the good fight. And we're going to have to probably take some losses. It's going to take some, it's going to take a lot of sacrifice. But I think said and done, when we're in the 2030s and 2040s, I think things are going to look a lot better. I hope, AI, different conversation. However, the future, the structure of society looks, that's still up for question. But I do have a lot of faith that it's going to be really hard. And I think it's going to be really difficult for anyone who's pro-Israel to be elected in any position in DC. I think that's going to come to a point where it's literally like a liability.
Yeah.
Where you cannot be elected if you support the secular state of Israel, the infiltration. Really, I mean, how analysts have admitted. I mean, I believe that they were responsible for the assassination of JFK. I know they had full knowledge of 9/11.
Yes.
The USS Liberty, they indisputably shot at and knew that there was an American flag. So these are things that the average American because of Instagram Reels and
Mhm.
social media opening up, we're really seeing like the post Elon era decentralization. I think is really good, and that's going to really inevitably shape how our generation is going to think and vote and really see see things policy wise moving forward. I think you're going to see a big shift there. But again, like it's going to be an uphill battle. Money, number one out of of all things, that would be the number one thing that would boost this. And like I said, within a year, if you're trying to make a change like that, $1 billion would for sure make a change in an election or a movement or a policy.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we're just not there yet. Heck, I mean, I'm going to do my best to get $1 billion. I don't think I'm going to be able to anytime soon. But again, like I really think and I think, and I'll say this now too, I came to the conclusion after the Florida midterms, if I were to ever seriously run for Congress or Senate, let alone governor, I would feel like I need to at least put down $1 million of my own money, or at least have someone who I know is going to give me $1 million donation. If not, I feel like I'm just wasting my time.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. I think time is the most valuable resource. So it's all about being smart now. And yeah, the infiltration strategy, I completely agree with that. I think that is exactly what we need. I love to see more like younger groypers and younger guys. And again, hiding the power level, I think that
It's the toughest part.
it is. And yeah, I failed at that early on. And I didn't necessarily think I had to do that after we just won. The Republicans got power. I was blinded by that. So, and I had to learn the hard way. But yeah, that's just the reality. It's like I think there has to be a whole decade's worth of infiltration to where it's like, it becomes inevitable that, like DC is just full of nationalists and groypers. And I'm already hearing reports like there's actually, I think like Washington Post, and that they're actually saying like DC is pretty based is what it sounded like. So I do love to hear that. There's definitely a good sign there. And I think that's just, like I said, the more people that in our generation do end up becoming staffers, or they get into city council, or they state rep, or whenever we get I don't know if I think we've had a couple of Gen Z congressmen, not too many yet. No, definitely no one who's like based, I guess, but
on the left, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I would have to guess, but yeah, that's just probably what's going to happen. So, I think it's going to be, everybody has to be patient. Can't be too disappointed. with what we're seeing now and what we're going to see in the next year. But that's where, again, it's focused. But my focus is stopping the current Republican apparatus that has no interest and no representation of our interests. So, really helping the American people. So, yeah, I want to bring it to a halt. Had I said this to myself 2 years ago, I'd be like, "You're nuts. It could have really gotten this bad." Well, yeah, it did. So, yeah, it's been a hijacked administration from the start. The H-1B visas, the Silicon Valley donors, the Peter Thiels, the Israel lobby, the Adelsons. It's been completely hijacked from the start, and I think MAGA was a scam. And I think from day one it was. I think Rand Paul's. It's funny. I posted about it 2 weeks ago. It was a recap from the 2015 debate when Trump first came on the stage with all 16 Republicans. And Trump's first thing he said, "Well, why is Rand Paul on the stage? He's got 1%. He shouldn't even be here." And then Rand Paul's rebuttal to that was, "Is this really a guy that we want to be talking to Putin and dealing with nuclear weapons and negotiating with Iran?" It's like, wow, how that came full circle. So so yeah, it definitely was MAGA and this whole movement. I think that Trump had was an experiment gone wrong. But I think there was definitely, when things, I guess, looking in hindsight, there's definitely a lot of positives that came out of this for sure. I can't for sure say this was a net positive, but like, again, what Trump started is something that's culminated into the America First movement and to people like Fishback. I think there's a bit of a Trumpism that's kind of inspired all of us. So I do like that aspect, and I think that, especially Trump winning in 2024, no matter how bad things have gotten, we can definitely say that after Trump was banned in social media, literally canceled by everyone, and then beats censorship and comes back and wins the election, it basically just destroyed censorship. The Streisand effect came in full, and you almost cannot do that anymore because it's going to have the reverse effect. So I think that we're seeing a lot more open discussion, less censorship on places like YouTube and TikTok, X. So I think that we can say is definitely a positive contribution to all the horrible things we've seen this administration. Again, I wouldn't even give credit to Trump for that. That's just kind of it's just the way things turned out. So I think that moving forward will definitely change the dynamics of, the election process and whoever is the successor of Trump, because they're going to realize that they're going to have a lot more ability to speak freely, especially about the Israel stuff. Maybe not a ton, but at least they'll not be. They're going to know they're not going to be censored. They're not have to worry about the retribution of censorship. So I think at least with that, you can say that was the net positive out of the Trump MAGA. I mean, yeah, so from 2015 to 2029, that's just a lot. That's insane to me. That's almost 15 years of one guy. So, yeah, when things are said and done, I think we're going to realize this was a huge mistake, but it did inevitably lead to maybe some unintended consequences or intended consequences that might actually lead us in the right direction. But again, it's too hard to tell, way too early. But like I said, Trump is basically handing it off to the Democrats at this point, I think, and maybe that's intentional.
Yeah, and listen, Trump did it in 2016. He took over the party and he rebuilt it. He completely gutted it. He put his people in. The problem is he didn't deliver on his promises. We just need a guy to get in there and deliver on his promises and tear it down on the way out so that we can have real independent thinkers leading our country, so that we can have we the people selecting who our leaders are and having those leaders represent us. I hope we have a decade's worth of work left in us. I think people are very accelerationist, but the reality is we are living in the fourth turning. It's a time of accelerationism. The bad guys are backed into a corner. They're trying to take us all down with them. We're worrying about nuclear holocaust every day. So I hope we have enough time to fix things. You've been really generous with your time. So I'm going to ask you one more question. For all the Gen Zers watching this that are apathetic, that are worried about what's next, very high level, in the simplest terms possible, what is your advice to them? What should they do to help save this country?
First of all, get involved, get informed, figure out what you believe. And I hope it's actually for the betterment of this country and putting this country first, and in actually bringing back the lifestyle that we had once had when our founders and really our grandparents had, like espousing the affordability, the culture, I think these are things we need to espouse to bring back, and that starts with just getting involved, being informed. Especially we're seeing with the success with flat cameras and the pushback against the ALPRs. Go to your local town halls, go to your city council meetings. You don't have to run for president, you don't have to run for Congress. That would be great. I'd totally encourage someone to do that. But it's just simple things. It's just playing your part. There's so many of us out there. We've got, we're a big community. There's what, 7 million people, or I mean, I'm sorry, not 7, there's 300 plus million people in the United States. So there's a lot of people that can play different roles, but it's just simply getting involved. Because I would say if we had another 2,000 people in my generation that showed out to vote for Thomas Massey, that would have been a different story. And frankly, that's what we need. It's a lack of involvement, it's a lack of commitment. And it's not just taking a shot at Gen Z. This is a generational thing. This happens. It's an age thing. It's most people are pretty, they're cut off from politics or world events or real issues in their teens and 20s and don't really catch up to that until they're 30 or 40, own property, have a family, have kids. And unfortunately, as we've seen, those things are kind of halted and really slowing down for our generation. And I hope that itself is also coupled with getting people involved and really inspires people to get up and do something. Because if you don't do anything, like I said, the country is not coming to save. No one's coming to save you. And I think that's where you never really have to come and try to save yourself. And again, put Christ first. And also, I believe we can't forget what our founders did. Now, that's the biggest thing. I think people are forgetting history too. That's another thing. It's not even involvement too. I would say just get informed. Read the founders' documents, read the Constitution, read what Alexander Hamilton had to say. Go back and actually understand what this country was about and founded by. I mean, George Washington, one of the best. I mean, friends with all, allies with none. When it comes to countries, I think that's something we forget a lot. We've been so entangled with these foreign alliances and lost sight of what it really means to be really a statesman, a nationalist, putting this country first. So really, things like that. Stay informed and get involved. Don't be afraid to use your voice. Start a podcast, anything. I mean, I think especially go and talk to your local representatives. Go talk to your congressman. Talk to your state reps. Build a relationship. Get their phone number. Go to dinner with them. Get involved with issues. Try to understand what is going on in your community and what you can do and play your part. So anyone can do it. Everyone can. You don't have to be any particular skill, any type of stature. Like, just get involved, play your part. And over time, I think we're going to see the inevitable change is that the Zoomers, I think, are going to be the generation that saves this country. And do you want to be a part of it, or do you want to be sitting on the sidelines? I certainly would love to be a part of it.
Couldn't agree more. Gen Z will be the generation to save this country, whether they like it or not. And I'm very bullish based on the results of the Florida governor primary, because Gen Z voted correctly. And that's the future. The boomers and Gen Xers aren't going to be here forever. They're going to pass the torch to us, and it's going to be up to us to take our country back. Kacee, how can our audience support you?
Yeah, just follow my personal accounts at Kacee Allen on X, Instagram, Threads. Basically, all my personal accounts are pretty much everywhere at Kacee Allen, almost every platform, 20 plus. Also, you can find my show, The Kacee Allen Show, separate platform at Kacee Allen Show. We're on YouTube. We got 15,000 subs, mainly shows on there. We have a X platform, short form, obviously, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. So, would support the following, the feedback, engage in the topics. Obviously, I'm constantly covering the flock safety stuff and everything that's going on with the surveillance state, getting pretty good engagement there. So, just trying to stay really involved in what's going on and just engage what's going on. I appreciate that. Not asking for any money. Also, if you guys would like to buy a hat, though, so this would support us. Kentucky First. It's similar to the America First hat. It's got the state seal of Kentucky. It's very rare to find that in a hat because everyone's afraid to make it because they think it's illegal, but it's not. So yeah, get yourself a Kentucky First hat, KaceeAllen /4wall.com. You can find it on our YouTube page as well. So $32 for this awesome hat made right here in London, Kentucky. So we'd love for you guys to check that out. And like I said, support any way you can. Oh, appreciate it, man. Awesome. Yeah. So like I said, get the hat and check out the show. $32. And if you're in actually our district, if you're in Northern Kentucky, I'll actually deliver it to you. So that's kind of the deal we're going with that. So it's kind of supporting the cause. It's kind of it's not a movement, but it's a hat that really does represent, especially after what we went with, the Thomas Massey America First kind of side. After we fought very hard for that election. I think it's really brought a lot of people together, and now they're really outspoken about a lot of other elections as well, and the America First movement. So, like I said, I appreciate you guys' support. If you guys support my show, all my personal accounts, and then check out my merchandise. But yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Lou. It's been a great time, and would love to collab with you guys again. Have you on my show as well.
I would absolutely love that. This has been fantastic. Love collaborating with fellow like-minded young patriots. For all you that have made it this far, we want to thank 50percentoff.com again for sponsoring this podcast. God bless you all. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Have a good one.